pense que les choses sont en train de se préparer. C'est un peu la musique de Noël. Ça va être bon.
We're tracking each candidate's
Yeah, here we go.
270 electoral votes. That's the number, of course, needed to win the presidency.
There's another big story tonight. Who will control the United States Senate? A handful of races will determine that question, and we're watching them all.
So polls have just closed in 6 states with 60 electoral votes. Let's get right to it. And you see right now, Georgia is too early to call.
Let's go to South Carolina.
Oh,
This
oui?
big Senate race as well as the presidential. Too early to call. We're waiting for vote there. In Indiana, we can make this call, and it's an expected one. The president will easily carry Indiana, the home state of Vice President Mike Pence. And let's look at Virginia. It is too early to call. However, our projection is that it is a Biden lead at this hour.
All right, let's take a look at Kentucky. And Kentucky right now, too early to call. But you see the first numbers we're getting of the night. Vermont is too early to call. And let's look at how all this takes us on that road to 270 right now. And you can see Donald Trump with 11 electoral votes to Biden 0.
Well, it could be a long night, and this is going to be an election
Mon site
like no
update
other.
pas.
We've got Andrea Mitchell here with us.
Ok,
We have
attends,
Chuck
c'est
Todd
quel?
here
11?
with us.
On va y
And
mettre ici,
one
ok.
thing that's different is the
Ah non, c'est que ça
enormous
fait pas.
amount of
Fuck.
mail-in voting. 100 million people have already voted before today. So we wanted to just
Je pense que j'ai un
break
moyen
down.
de faire de quoi.
When you see expected
Genre,
vote in the top right-hand
empty.
corner of our graphics, that
Blank
includes
map.
mail-in voting. It's not just day of voting, but includes mail-in voting
Yeah,
as
we're
well.
not looking at just precincts. That's the term you're not going to hear a lot of tonight. It's this expected vote, which is an educated estimate. It may change a bit here or there, but it'll be the thing to watch tonight as we get that road.
It is, and look, I'm just going to show you real quick how you'll be able to follow it, and we'll show you real fast here and take a look at one of our states right now.
Okay.
Here, hopefully, we are starting to get here. We
Clic.
should be able to
Je suis
see it
tellement
here
bien
in
seté,
Indiana.
man.
And
Ouais,
not
je suis
yet
pas tant bien
here.
seté.
Well, we will work on that. The
Add
data
group.
is coming in here.
Chat with black background, ça va aider pour la
We'll go here.
lisibilité.
Let's see if it's working.
Puis je vais le mettre
Here we
là,
go.
genre.
Right here, we're going to be able to tell you, and you'll see this on all of our state results all night long. We'll tell you, in Indiana, we knew there were
chat feed, on
207,000
baisse
early and
comme
absentee
lui.
votes, and see this orange line,
Lui, on
you'll see
va
this
le
as the night.
descendre pas
And we'll
mal.
see, some states, you're going to see the early and absentee take up most of that column. Then your election day vote's going to come in at yellow there, and you'll start to see the yellow. Place like Pennsylvania, we expect more yellow than we will orange. And then this gray spot, look, I want to tell people something. This number, it's an estimate. It is an estimate. It could change throughout the night. We may learn more. Oh, there's more ballots than we thought, or there's a fewer ballots than we thought. But this is the expected vote as best as we can estimate it before the election. So this could move by anywhere from a percentage point or two. But this is what we'll be letting you know about all night long.
The main thing is we are counting early vote, and we are estimating day of vote when we talk about how much of the vote is in it at
We'll
this
revisit
time.
this along the way.
All night
Chat
long,
feed.
because people are going to want to know how much did the early vote impact this election as well.
All right, Andrea Mitchell is here. What are some of your early thoughts?
Well, early thoughts include what's going to happen in
early
Pennsylvania,
thoughts.
and that's a place where suburban women did not turn out for Hillary
Chat
Clinton in
feed.
2016. And what we might see this year, and it just depends on whether that gender
non.
gap shows that we've seen all along in the early
Ouais, finalement, c'est pour ça que je veux pas en tout.
between Joe Biden and Donald Trump for weeks
Remove.
now. Women are disproportionately affected by COVID, and the suburban white women have really been going for Joe Biden over Donald Trump in the polling straight through. If that holds, that could be key in Pennsylvania, in Michigan, and other states. It could offset Donald Trump's big advantage with white, non-college educated men. And these women are staying at home, many working from home, taking care of children. They're disproportionately affected by COVID, and they're telling us, at least in the polling up until
Dites-moi
now,
si vous préférez avec ou sans, là, même si on voit mal ce qui est écrit, là, mais bon. Ça devrait être pas pire.
All right, Andrew, we have got a tremendous team of correspondents spread out across the
Ça
country.
fait chier un peu.
Analyzing
Ah, j'ai
results
rajouté
in
un petit
key
bac
states.
noir
We'll
moi-même,
check
là.
in with them to the night, but first a look at where the candidates are tracking tonight.
Add color.
So let's start with Hallie Jackson. She's at the White House.
New
The
noir.
president is watching results come in. Kristen Welker
Whoa.
is at Joe
Non,
Biden's
on voit plus
headquarters
rien.
in Wilmington, Delaware. But Hallie, we'll start with you. What's
Okay.
the mood inside
Black.
Trump
Okay.
team?
The president is here at the White House watching these returns come in, mixing yet again his official position here with campaign activities. An event set to be held in the East Room tonight. Several hundred supporters of the president will be here watching this all unfold. We are told by sources close to the president that he is sounding tired. You can hear it in his voice a little bit. It's raspy from all those rallies he's been holding the last couple of days. But in conversations, he is indicating that he is feeling good, feeling optimistic about his chances. So let's talk about what we're hearing from allies and aides close to the president in this campaign. They're specifically looking at some key battlegrounds, and they're feeling encouraged about states like Florida, Ohio, Iowa, some of the states that had been on that battleground map, Arizona. They're feeling optimistic about Georgia and North Carolina. There's a big question mark on Michigan. I think that many acknowledge that that is, privately, they'll say, an uphill climb for President Trump at this point. Critical when it comes to the electoral vote there. And then there's a really interesting state, Pennsylvania. I asked one person close to the president which 3 states they're going to be looking at tonight, right now. And they said, well, Pennsylvania, and then Pennsylvania, and after that, Pennsylvania again. This is a state where the president has campaigned more than any other throughout this 2020 cycle. There is a lot at stake here because it could potentially be a tipping point. The president has acknowledged that very publicly, but here the race, the polls show that it is extremely close. So a lot of eyeballs on Pennsylvania. As far as the move more broadly, listen, I covered this campaign back in 2016 when it was a come-from-behind win. I vividly remember election night with all of you that night as well. And there is the memory of that is still lingering, the sense that this campaign has been an underdog before and could be an underdog and pull out another victory again. But there are also those close to the president who are looking at the way suburban women, for example, seniors have moved away from the president, largely because of questions about his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. And that, I think, is going to folks
eux en live sur 270 to win. Eux sont
Delaware. Kristen, what's the mood there? What's the story?
Well, Joe Biden watching returns with his family here in Delaware after striking a confident note throughout the day and after making some final campaign stops. He was in Pennsylvania, Scranton, where of course he was born, visiting his childhood home. He was also in Philadelphia, urging them to get out the vote. Why so much focus on Pennsylvania? Biden has been there several times over the past several days. Well, because the Biden campaign says, look, they don't need Pennsylvania in order to win the White House. However, it is very difficult for President Trump to win re-election if he doesn't carry Pennsylvania. Of course, that's a state that he won back in 2016. So that's why you see this intense focus on the Keystone State. They like what they're hearing so far in terms of the turnout rate, so they are watching that very closely. But they're also, of course, watching the Midwest, that blue wall that did not hold for Hillary Clinton. Biden has been there multiple times. Michigan, Wisconsin, urging people to get out and vote for him. He says to vote for change. So they will be watching quite closely. They do say they don't need to win states like Florida and North Carolina, but those states could help Biden with a victory. So there is measured optimism here inside the Biden camp. Now, some Democrats privately expressing concerns that Biden hasn't had the same aggressive campaign schedule that we have seen from President Trump. I asked a campaign official about that today. This official said, look, we feel confident. We feel as though we left it all out on the field. So now they are watching.
Karen me dit exactement la même chose. Elle aussi, elle aime ma casquette.
Over the United States Senate, Democrats need to pick up a net of 3 seats if they win the White House or 4 if they don't. And here are some results.
Ouais, je me demandais si c'était qui, puis après ça, j'ai comme vraiment lu le nom. Puis il y avait plus d'enjeu à savoir c'était qui.
This one also too early to call. John Ossoff, the Democrat, David Perdue, the Republican. Now we've got what they call a jungle primary. That's the technical term. Everybody's in it, and not just these 3. It's too early to call, but both of those Georgia's races could go to a runoff if no candidate gets to 50%.
Ah, si tu veux changer, il faut que tu changes tout, là. T'en fasses un compte, je pense. Attends, laisse-moi, je vais fouiller la réponse pour toi, ok? On va aller checker pour toi comment que... Change. Twitch. Username. Name changes are real. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't called any yet, but we've got Casey Hunt right here in New York with us.
Tiens ici, à cet endroit-là, tu dois avoir l'info pour pouvoir le faire. Puis conseil, si tu mets le chat noir, mets des majuscules à le L, le C, puis le N pour le chat noir. C'est vraiment plus facile à lire dans des choses comme ça. Là. Perso, moi je te dis je te dirais que c'est le best.
Shift that we've been talking about for several election cycles, but be a place that could really turn against President Trump. And that not only has huge implications for the presidential ticket, it also has implications for there are two Senate races, as we have walked through. One of them, Senator Perdue, a Republican, he's an incumbent, he's running against Jon Ossoff. If Jon Ossoff can get to 50% tonight, that's going to be a sign that Democrats are in for a very good night. Obviously, far too early to call that at this point, but that's what I'm going to be watching all through the night. That logic also applies to these other Sunbelt suburbs. Phoenix, Arizona is another one. Martha McSally running against Mark Kelly, who's a Democratic challenger. Many Republicans think that race may already be gone for Martha McSally, the incumbent, and if that's the case, it's all about those suburbs of Phoenix. And then the big surprise, of course, tonight, Savannah, potentially in Texas. We don't always think about Texas as being driven by suburbs, but it really is. Houston, Dallas area places. There is a Senate race in Texas.
C'est tellement drôle.
Cornyn, the Republican
Ça a juste pas de sens.
Incumbent there. We have expected him to do better than
ouais, ben elle l'a donné parce que l'autre a crié. Hein,
actually only a few places
yo, je sais, man, c'est vraiment drôle. Wow. Mais merci, Marie-Bloody, de suivre. Je suis bien content. Ben, tu vas à l'endroit où est-ce que tu écris pour le chat, puis tu devrais avoir un chat aussi à cet endroit-là. Là. Ok, regarde, je te l'envoie par nos voix officieuses facebookiennes.
Well, everything's bigger in Texas, Casey, including the turnout that we've seen so far of the roughly 10 million votes, which is about 10% of all the early votes that have been cast so far.
Je l'envoie autrement. Direct. Je l'envoie direct dans le truc.
That's what Democrats say they would need to actually
pull that off. So watch that tonight. Oh, je suis dans quelle vue? Je suis dans ma vue. I guess c'est elle. What are we going to know and what aren't we going to know? Look, at the end of the day, we know that these three states are not going to be reporting tonight. Man, je sais pas quelque chose.
Wisconsin could get a bunch of vote in before the Today Show, which is always my
Ok, là, je fais un test, tout le monde.
Right. Michigan and Pennsylvania, very unlikely. So let's how do you want to watch the night? Well, we know we're going to see these early states here first, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. And let me just show you why they're so important to President Trump and why he really probably has to sweep the Sun Belt. Because if you go back and give the Clinton states here to Biden in our battleground map, and you go ahead and give Trump his states of Iowa and Ohio here, we're going to leave these three unchecked here. We'll go ahead and put that there. And we're going to go ahead and put Maine in blue here for now. And we're going to go, we have the ability to do this, split the Maine control.
C'est compliqué la technologie.
And we're going to go ahead and give Nebraska here for now.
Merci.
Put it in the Biden column. So you can see everything we can do. And in here's the situation. If the president doesn't win these Sunbelt states, and any of them, you know, if he doesn't win these Sunbelt states,
oh, tu peux pas mettre de majuscule? Je t'ai dit de mettre des majuscules! En tout cas, tu peux pas faire ce que tu veux, mais perso, moi je trouve ça. Je trouve que les usernames avec des majuscules aux bonnes places, c'est mieux. Yo, j'ai-tu une majuscule? J'ai-tu une majuscule? Moi? Ah oui!
Then suddenly Pennsylvania no longer is here.
Oui.
But for the president, if he is able to hang on, and he hangs on, then look what we're staring at.
I guess je parle bonne
place. We're staring at a one-state contest. We're all going to be wondering what Pennsylvania's about.
Oui, Karen, j'avais me coucher bonnie, mon amour.
North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Arizona.
Hein, quoi?
One flip by Biden.
Oui, je sais que je suis beau,
and suddenly the president's path gets really complicated. Two flips, and we have an idea who the next president's going to be.
Ah, good, c'est bon. Là, ça gosse parce que là, j'essaie de faire un truc. Oh, quitter la page. Parce que je trouve que le pop-up, il est comme trop... Ah, bonne place. Ah, je suis de merde. Non.
for breaking news in our changing world.
Talk scene.
Download the
Copy of
NBC
copy
News
of.
app.
Bout de bat. Celle-là. Oh, qu'est-ce qu'il y a, oui. Ok, puis ça, c'est l'alerte. Ah, ok, ça, je pensais. On va pas tasser ça ici. Parce que, yo, c'est... Je peux mettre ça sur silence, là, puis juste mettre ça sur l'intermission. Parce que c'est rendu... C'est Noël. C'est Verstadis. Peut-être de Verstadis, c'est Noël. Yo! Avec mon hoodie! Oh man, gang gang, hey! Ouais, mais j'ai aussi un t-shirt. J'ai un t-shirt genre, il est juste gris. Puis je me suis donné le hoodie avec, là, c'est vraiment cool. Mais tu sais, le logo, je l'avais fait faire par une fille, vu que je m'avais sub à un channel sur Twitch à quelqu'un. Avec mon abonnement Prime, puis voilà, hein. Pas mal content d'avoir fait ça. Là, c'est juste qu'il faut que je fasse un test. Ah ouais, non, fuck. Ok, il est encore trop bas, il faut que je le tasse un peu encore. Attends, non, faut que je fasse save. Save, puis là, je peux preview. Right? Ok, encore un peu plus haut. Un peu plus haut, un peu plus loin. Je veux aller. Oh, 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 non, non, non. Oh, shit de merde. Ok. Save. Emulate. C'est encore un peu trop bas, hein? On va nous faire monter ça. Ok, là, que ça a l'air de quoi, mettons, encore un autre follow. Ah, j'ai pas fait de save. Les âges. Ok. Emulate. Ah, cool, c'est bon. Cool, ok, save. Hype is real. Hey, what up, Ollie Bowling? So, are you following the elections, or you're not interested at all? Are you even from the US? You probably know I'm not from Canada. Yeah, cool. Oh, they're back on.
Election night 2020 on NBC News.
Okay.
Got some numbers coming in. Let's look at the Virginia
First
presidential
and
race.
implications.
And right now, that's too early, but we can report that Biden is leading in
Virginia, yeah.
Let's look at Georgia. It's a swing state this year. We don't usually say that.
Georgia?
It's too early to call, but we're starting to get a few votes in. Let's go to South Carolina. Too early to call.
But I think those are coming from the definitely they are the absentee ballots. So
Joe Biden is the winner in Vermont.
Oh, Vermont, yeah.
Yeah, that's a new call. Yeah, well, we just got that in. Yeah, but not a surprise. But yes, okay. Let's go to
I'm gonna refresh that
in
page.
Philly, where of course the Democrats
Why
are
is it
really
not
hoping on a high
updating?
turnout to kind of
Come on,
break
I
out
want
what
a
happens
live
in other
timer
more rural
so I can
parts of
put
the
it up
state.
here.
Rahima, what are you seeing?
NBC.
What we're seeing here, Savannah, is that right now in this Philadelphia area that we're in, the voting has been quiet because it was very heavy in days leading up to this. They got a lot of mail-in ballots that were brought into the state. As you know, so many people get out and online,
I don't know.
in line in order
Maybe
to cast their
CNN,
ballots
maybe
early.
Fox
We
News.
talked to people.
I don't know what would be the best.
Things that they were really concerned about here was COVID-19, which is one of the reasons why so many people mailed in their ballots. For the first time, they had over 400,000 mail-in ballots requested for this election, a presidential election, and they received more than 330,000 before this election day began.
Oh, damn it. Wow.
That's why they think that they didn't have very long lines here. But the other counties
Speaking like Borat right now.
They did have long lines. One of the things that's really important here
election
is that
count. Okay, so I can
tell us
edit
that
that
it
part.
is not likely they're going to be able to call this race for either candidate tonight because the Democratic governor of Pennsylvania
I do have a
says they're going to
preference.
count all of those
As a Canadian, I'm more lean towards the left, or at least the Canadian left,
even up till Friday.
which is
thank you. And Chuck, you've been looking at those exit polls.
which is communism for the U.S. I think, or for some people in U.S.
We have some Georgia exit poll numbers among white voters here.
So yeah,
And
I would prefer Biden.
When Democrats do well in southern states,
that's the best thing I can put up.
Perform better with some white voters. They have to get to the 30%
that's
mark.
live.
Here's what's interesting in Georgia.
Cool. And switching up between. Oh yes.
A Democrat carried Georgia was in 1992.
Okay, cool.
Bill Clinton,
Cool.
Which is also the
Hey,
last
tell me, Ali Balling,
Democrat
does
got more
that
than 30% of the white vote. Right now, Joe Biden
whoa.
is sitting at exactly 30% of the white
Okay,
vote. You
does
can
that
see
clip from the
2004,
NBC
2016. So the
website
last time it's
showing
been there,
results
it's a
live
magic
and
number to
switching
watch there. That
is a good
30%
idea, or you
mark.
prefer something
That is
static that
usually
doesn't
what
switch?
Democrats need in Georgia,
Just tell me, I'm
assuming
gonna
they
fix
have
it
the African
right
American
now.
turnout they need, and right now in Georgia it looks like
Yo, check
that
Dan.
is why right now,
On a les résultats en live qui apparaissent en haut, man. Ça, je me feed sur le site des NBC, fait que that'll be it. And then I'm gonna switch from to English because we have yeah, I think it's pretty dope. Having just feed on the page itself, really cool. So yeah, Dumas, I'm gonna go for English right now because we have all the balling with us. Friend of someone I'm following on Twitch, so I'm gonna pull out my big my big English energy right now.
All right, Chuck, thank you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more
again?
NBC News Decision 2020.
Did it update for all my scenes? Oh no, it didn't. Okay. Gotta mute NBC right now. Okay, so I'm gonna go to all my scenes, election count. So gonna have to move this up. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna edit. I'm just gonna edit a few, not all of them, because I think we're gonna use this scene a lot during the commercial breaks of NBC, and during whenever I want. That should be cool. Okay, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, man, I think it's pretty dope. Is the Christmas music too low? Yeah, I think it is. We don't hear it any much. Eggnog Punch. I'm running the playlist from Iris Lair named Stream Beats, and he just put up the Christmas one. Yeah. No, polls didn't. Only the eastern states polls have been closed right now at 7 p.m. Then we're gonna have the central time, I think, and then the mountain times. So we won't be having any west polling results right now. Oh yeah, so yeah, there's really no way for you to to follow the orange Batman. So that's it. That's dumb. Everyone shows up in red in the chat, coming up on the stream, but everyone has his own color in the real Twitch one. So I don't know what's up with. East first, dummy me, yeah. It's okay. Is it back up? No, it's not. Okay, I'm all cool. So I think I'm gonna rock this this overlay for the next couple of months, at least until Christmas. I think it's pretty dope. So okay, check this out. So this is the starting screen. So starting soon, the ending one, which is essentially the same, which is the text changing. Christmas Be Right Back. They're all the same, in fact. And this one for when I'll be gaming and just show the footage. And yeah, this is for obviously the live reaction. Oh, they are up.
Yeah, and it's a Senate presidential
Wait, nope.
battleground.
Do it.
Oh,
okay.
Stop it.
And what we see very clearly from the exit polls, at least so far, is that there's a real split, a racial divide on what is.
Okay, so if you're asking, if you wonder why there's that kitty mask propping on some person, I do it just for the love, and I don't choose who the mask is put on, so it's all automatic coming from ManyCam, as you can see with a watermark. But yeah, I think it's pretty funny, but it doesn't work on some people with masks, so. And when people are too far away, but yeah, that mask from that guy is really cool.
Particularly Georgia and North Carolina, so these are what we call margin states.
Yeah, 311.
How much do you
coming from like what, Illinois or Indiana?
For Trump?
And they count the votes pretty quickly.
Okay, that's Indiana.
It's a fairly quick process.
Kentucky Senate.
All right. Yeah. We will be right back with more coverage after this.
Wait, again? What's up with these ads? Okay, no. That's not how I want to play. Okay, I'm gonna switch up to I think PBS. Yeah, PBS don't have any ads for sure.
And most of them called the pandemic the main issue facing the country.
You would like to see it on my face? It would require. Okay. I can do it. I'm gonna do it right now. Okay. How do I do it though? Manage desktop camera. Yeah, I'm coming from the. Oh, I don't think it can. No, it cannot. Can it?
Well, I think the president has taken it seriously from the very beginning, and it's his leadership that made the United States.
Hey, what up, Crazy Jack? Just so you know, I just switched to almost full-on English for Ali Battling joining us right now. So to celebrate his presence, we're gonna switch up. But if you have anything to say in French, no problem. On peut en parler direct aussi si tu veux join le Discord puis venir sur le voice chat, pas de problème. Même chose pour Dumais. Si tu veux venir sur le voice chat aussi, là, c'est cool. Pas de problème, no problem. Even you, Ali Battling, if you want to join the Discord, just type exclamation point Discord in the chat. You'll be prompted with the link for it, and I'm gonna give you the rights to join the stream room.
And you just had Ron Klain there when he was in charge.
Oh, and Black Kitty. And the Black Kitty. Marie, le chat noir. I won't be putting the filter on my face.
The virus itself was not more deadly. Otherwise, there would have been a mass casualty event. Those are Ron
You can do the capture. Oh, okay.
Looking at 230,000 American
Okay.
deaths.
Was it last Bring On Debate AVPD stream, or was it 2 weeks ago? Usually before a stream like this, where I know I'm gonna have to stay up for a couple of many hours, I'm getting whatever energy drink I have, and I always choose the Ghoul one because it's Canadian and bio.
Well, I don't know what poll you're
but
saying. I could also
2 weeks ago, I did the error to drink a Monster one at almost 8 p.m. Oh, who's it? OnlyFans on NB. Thanks a lot.
Before the pandemic, the answer is overwhelmingly Donald Trump. And I want to point out something else about Ron Klain's remarks about black and
NB.
Joe Biden absolutely took them for granted. That's why he told radio hosts that.
Why is it in red in the chat here? I don't understand.
We base all of our modeling on 2016.
Oh, okay, no, it's just FFZ. Okay, I understand.
In 2016, the president got 8% of the black vote. In public polls and in our own numbers, we think that the president is going to approximately double that amount.
Mon bum. Comment ça, mon bum?
We believe that he'll go from 28% in 2016, and we think that he might actually reach 40%.
So I'm gonna switch up almost all the time between French and English. Fait qu'on va faire le switch tout le temps. On va voir ce que ça donne. Tout dépendamment. Yeah, OnlyFans, Lisanne NB. C'est comme si c'était le OnlyFans de Lisanne Nadeau, yo, mais j'arrive pas à comprendre le B à la fin, fait que c'est peut-être pas elle. Fait que je sais pas qui d'autre ça pourrait être. Sûrement quelqu'un qui veut pas se révéler, mais merci vraiment beaucoup pour le follow, man. Vraiment cool. Puis, and I'm telling for everyone that is Amazon Prime member, pour n'importe qui est membre Amazon Prime, you can link your Twitch account to your Amazon account and you'll be becoming a Twitch Prime member, and you will be having a free Prime sub to give to whoever you want every month, and that could be me. So, heads up on that. Fait que si vous linkez votre compte Amazon avec votre compte Twitch, puis vous avez Prime, vous allez pouvoir avoir une subscription gratuite par mois sur la chaîne de votre choix. D'habitude, je pense que c'est 7$ par mois. Mais c'est gratuit, puis ça se renouvelle pas. Là. Fait que toi, tu le renouvelles, puis tu peux pas te faire fourrer. Fait que si jamais vous avez un compte Prime, puis vous avez pas personne qui a de sub encore, ça serait apprécié si vous le droppez ici.
General election Senate race, David Perdue, the incumbent, not able to get ahead of John Ossoff, the Democratic challenger. Suddenly, we're a battleground state which Democrats have
OnlyFans, je sais pas c'est quoi, man. Quelqu'un peut me dire c'est quoi OnlyFans?
So, we're gonna watch to see, is this the night?
Is there really anyone in the chat right now that is sub to an OnlyFans page?
Bill, very briefly, we Georgia
like really?
Surge in early voting. Do you have any idea when we expect results?
The Secretary of State's office had said that he expected to have every vote counted by sometime tomorrow.
Okay, so they gave 2 more to Trump on PBS. NBC gave 13 now or not? Okay, they're still stuck on 11 on NBC.
And it slowed down the voting.
Next poll closing, so yeah, it's gonna be staged every hour. Every hour we're gonna get more states. South Carolina, yeah, South Carolina is gonna be 100% for Trump. No question here.
Tonight from Georgia Public Broadcasting. Thank you to you. Sticking with the Southeast now, where there's another critical race in the Senate. Felicia Edie is a reporter and producer for South Carolina.
Is there a page for PBS?
PBS. That race in the Senate is one a lot of folks have their eyes on. Senator Lindsey Graham is fending off a challenge from Democratic challenger Jamie Harrison. You've been following that race. What's the latest?
Oh, so they don't have that. Does anyone hear her? I don't hear anything at all. J'entends rien pantoute avec elle. Ah merde, j'ai rien. Ah, j'aurais ça ici. Est-ce que je prends ça? Non, j'aime bien plus l'affaire de NBC qui spin. Là. Je trouve que c'est vraiment plus hot, là. Vraiment plus dynamique. The NBC one is the best, I think. Up there? Yeah. Latest presidential, yeah. Vermont, Biden, yeah, surprise. For the guys that have Bernie Sanders as their Senate man, as their senator. Oh, cool. Oh, it's switched up to 14 for Trump. So, what's the latest? Latest presidential Indiana? Yeah, we know that Indiana counts for 11.
Of people who may not have known his name, but after this week, they definitely know it now. That we've had campaign ads after campaign ads after campaign ads. Earlier today,
we're missing your name.
Polling precincts in 2 counties, Lawrence County and Richland County.
Felicia Edie live for us there in South Carolina, from South Carolina Public Radio.
Elle faisait comme si elle comprenait ce qu'elle disait, mais il n'y a rien à comprendre.
Keeping our eyes on. Judy, back to you.
Yes, thank you to you, Amna, and to Felicia, and apologies about that audio difficulty. We're going to try to get that straightened.
Okay.
Back to Felicia a little bit later. We are now able to make a call
c'est le Congrès,
in the state of West Virginia. I think the polls have just closed in, let's see, 3 states, 2 more states. North Carolina has been delayed. It's 7:33 in the east, and we are able to call West Virginia.
Winner!
For Donald Trump. This may be the reddest state in the country. Not a surprise, but surely provides some relief to the Trump campaign. The Mountain State will remain in the Republican column. 5 electoral votes on top of 8
Comme c'est drôle.
In Kentucky. So the president has a grand total of 13 electoral votes to Joe Biden's 3 in Vermont. Let's look at Ohio. This is a state where we are waiting for the results to come in. The president won Ohio.
Ah ouais, Ohio, ça va être le plus...
As we discussed with Gary
ça va être rough,
Abernathy
là.
a little while ago. The polls closed in Ohio at 7:30
Si Biden
Eastern.
gagne Wisconsin, Michigan,
too early,
ça c'est sûr.
honestly, way too early. As the
Fait
votes,
n'importe
we're
quel
going to
dans
take longer to call,
Arizona,
but we're not going to count their early votes,
ou Floride,
until
ou Georgie,
later.
ou Caroline du Nord,
And
ou
let's see, do we have any
Pennsylvanie,
more calls to make
ou
at
Ohio,
7:30?
il gagne.
We do not. We should point out that North Carolina was to close at 7:30. They've delayed it because of some issues with polls in early. Yet another. All right, here's a Senate race call. Our second
On peut
Senate
pas rester sur
call of the
PBS,
night.
c'est quoi
This is
ces
West
chiffres-là?
Virginia again. Shelley Moore Capito, the Republican,
Wow, qu'est-ce que c'est ça, man?
popular in the state of West Virginia, moving easily.
Ok, je pense que ça va être plus dynamique sur NBC, là, pas joué.
So, in order for this to go blue tonight, you're going to need to see a block of blue down here, not just a little bit of blue in these key counties with heavy African-American vote in it.
All right, Chuck, let's go to Kelly O'Donnell right now in Columbus, Ohio, to set the scene there. Kelly?
Well, Lester, right now, a couple of minutes past the
Ah,
closing
je trouve
of
que
polls,
c'est slow.
all
Ah,
those
il
early
y a
votes
tellement
are
de
actually
choses, là.
being tabulated. And sources that I've been speaking with say expect
Ok, on va
those
essayer un
to
autre
go
truc, tout le
strongly for
monde.
Joe Biden. But that will give perhaps a skewed perspective
Oh,
of the night.
virtual cam.
Both elected officials, senior elected officials in both
Ok,
parties
c'est normal,
say
ça l'a
they
planté tout le monde,
expect
c'est
Biden to have
normal.
big margins in the cities.
C'est normal, ça l'a
The president's
planté.
strength, they believe, is in the more rural areas where they argue that they've been able to identify and turn out new voters favorable to President Trump, but that vote will probably come in later tonight. So one of the key questions will be watching what may be early returns for Biden, and can the president chip away at that and overtake it?
C'est meilleur comme
The
ça.
Trump campaign believes they've got to win Ohio. No Republicans won the White House without it. Democrats think it's within reach for Joe Biden, and they say look to the suburbs for where Joe Biden, they believe, has performed better than Hillary Clinton from 4 years ago, better than President Trump. So Ohio has a lot about history, and in this case, it's about new expectations. So it will take some patience tonight, but they expect to have votes coming in soon. But it's about watching the pace of the night, and can the president overtake what they
Fait que tout le monde
expect
qui est
to
dans
be
le
that
chat,
early Joe Biden
c'est pour qui
lead.
vous,
Biden
c'est
and
qui vous
President
croyez qui va
Trump
réussir à gagner?
campaigned here, not as much as some of the other
For
battlegrounds,
everyone in the
but
chat
Ohio
room
is critical
and
to get to
everyone
that
viewing
piece
the
that's
stream right
needed
now.
for 270. 18
What are your
electoral votes
predictions?
are on the line here. Lester?
What do you
Kelly,
what do you guess
thank you.
will be
Let's
happening
turn to
tonight?
Florida. I can't believe we haven't talked very much about Florida tonight.
I know.
Oh,
Well, let
Florida,
me show
yeah,
you what we
cool.
got in
Starting to
Florida
get
right
some
What's
now.
up with Florida right now?
And I'm going to just show you what we got a lot of vote in, okay? We got over 7 million vote. And Florida's
Wow,
one of those that does
that's
its
red.
early vote. In fact, let's show off our toys here, as I said we were going to do, right? As you can see, the orange is early and absentee. You see the same day vote. People that voted today is here in yellow.
Okay.
And then we have a bunch of
That's
gray
at
vote here. We
60%.
expect
Wow.
nearly 12 million voters. So we shall see. So we think there's another, 3.5 to 4 million, maybe 4.5 million more votes to
So
go.
close.
So anyway,
I
just
think the
something to look
difference is
there.
not
So,
big enough
how
for
are we watching Florida tonight?
Bush.
You don't win Florida the same
But
way
right now, I
twice.
think je pense que la différence n'est pas assez grosse entre les deux.
But let me just start here
All
with what we're-
others.
all night tonight I'll do these what I call
C'est
Trump
quoi ça?
Dem counties. And what these were is these were counties that Trump carried in 16, but the major
I
Democratic
need to
statewide
change something in my
candidate in
overlay
18
because we
carried.
don't
Well, in
see
state of
the
Florida, that
OnlyFans
was
guy
Duval,
showing up in the
that was
latest
Seminole,
followers
and
part
that
of
was
the overlay.
Pinellas. This was the
I'm gonna
governor's race
switch.
there
I'm
in
gonna
Gillen, which was
correct it right now.
Granted, it's a race they
I
lost,
think
but these are
that's
3
Toxie.
important counties.
Oh my
I can
God,
tell you
which
this,
one
the
is
Biden
it?
folks think if they can win Pinellas and Duval and Seminole, it can
It's
make up for
it's
some
the
ground
empty
there.
one I
So,
created.
why don't we take a look and see what our numbers are? Here's Pinellas. This is
Which
the
one
home of
did I
St.
do?
Petersburg. Right now,
Is it
very
this
narrow
one?
Biden. So you can see what we were looking at over the
No,
last
that's not
3
it.
election cycles. This is the toy
Preview.
that I love the best. The fact I could do this so
This is a
quickly
good
here.
one.
As you can see here, Trump carried this
Is
county.
it? No,
this is
it's
one
not.
of the few bellwether counties that there's left. Most things are margins, as I've been saying here. Obama narrowly carried it by a bigger number, as you can see there in 08. And so far right now,
You're scared?
89%.
Who's
so we
gonna
think
win?
there's not
Oh
much
man,
for
I'm
it, but
I'm
Biden
not gonna go.
very
I'm
narrow
gonna
lead.
play that
All
game,
that tells
Bangaroo.
me-
As it comes.
By the way, all that tells me is it's gonna
I
take
would
forever to
prefer
call
Biden
Florida.
to win,
But
but
let me look at a couple of others. We want to
oh,
talk about
that's so
Seminole.
close right
Well,
now.
Seminole right now. This is a county again that Donald Trump
Okay,
carried,
okay. He's doing county by county. Okay.
4 years ago. And you
Romney.
can see here, this is a county that has been moving
Oh, wow.
towards the Democrats
Oh my God!
as you can see here,
did you look at the number of votes?
But you saw McCain and Romney and Trump all carried it.
So Trump got
starting to shift a little bit. It's diversifying.
109,000 in 2016, and now there's already
he's winning Seminole. That is a very
116,000. Wow!
This is potentially the trouble.
The turnout is so much bigger this year.
As you can see, we already have 84% in. This is a terrible margin for him, 54%. Not
Explain
good.
that. It's the Latino vote in South Florida.
And it's a different type of Latino vote. It's the Cuban American vote. It's the Venezuelan American vote. But
the Cuban usually votes for the Republicans because they don't like the Fidel Castro and the communism regime in Cuba. So.
Obama got 62 out of it.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's all on Nicole, man. The logo right here, the DK.
These numbers she's hitting here.
That's the winning part right here.
With turnout in some of the more rural counties. But if Joe Biden, he's not getting close to this. This is 10, but this could be the reason he doesn't win Florida, because Donald Trump has made it. If there is one constituency group in the state of Florida that he is focused on, it is Cuban Americans, Venezuelan Americans. They did all sorts of policy rollouts
de longues minutes de délibération,
finally, enfin.
Essentially, to try to carry the state
that I'm not a robot.
You're not a robot, so you managed to pass through the Google CAPTCHA then.
So there is not to say Biden can't do this if he overperforms in some of these northern counties, which we're seeing him do. But this is a potential trouble spot right now that we're following when it comes to these Miami-Dade numbers.
Kristen Welker has spent a fair amount of time in Florida recently. Kristen,
Joe Biden making an appeal est gros quand même, 90 000 juste dans un county, c'est fou.
Well, that's right. Older voters, independent voters. Lester, and I just heard from a campaign official who said,
oui, non, ça commence bien gros, dépendamment de ce que tu préfères.
Because if Florida switch back to the Democrats, it's game over. Like, big time game over. Because Wisconsin and Michigan are gonna turn. I'm very confident that they're gonna turn. So if Florida turns too, it's over.
Quite energized and quite divided for every Biden voter who I interviewed a Trump voter. So you really feel
hey, comment t'aimes le petit spin que j'ai mis en haut à gauche du stream? Il est quand même cool, hein? Où est-ce qu'on voit genre les choses, les latest results in, toutes ces choses-là.
Ouais, c'est bien, c'est facile à comprendre, puis ça montre toute l'information.
Ouais, puis ça roule. Tu sais, ça reste tout le temps là, je trouve ça... En tout cas, perso, moi, je trouve ça quand même pas top. Il y a de quoi que j'ai fait, puis que je trouve plus, puis je suis comme mad. Ok, je peux faire ça.
Dans quel sens?
Parce que je sais pas si tu check dans l'overlay, il y a le latest follower, puis le latest follower c'est OnlyFans Lisanne NB. Puis, mais le nom rentre pas au complet dans le latest follower, fait que ça le met en dessous, fait que j'aurais juste comme rapetisser le font, mais j'arrive plus à retrouver mon overlay dans Streamlabs, Stream Elements.
Je peux pas t'aider avec ça, désolé.
Ah, moi. Même moi, je peux pas m'aider parce que j'ai été cave.
I think I would urge a little bit of caution in terms of looking at the returns there. The other thing I would highlight, though, Savannah, is Broward County. For all of the trouble that Chuck correctly highlighted, that President Trump is, former Vice President Joe Biden is potentially having in Miami-Dade County. Democrats are really paying attention to Broward, which is just one county to the north, where we could see those suburban women who have been so frustrated with President Trump really play a pretty significant role. There's also, of course, questions, as you were talking about with Kristen, about seniors in that spot. So if the turnout there is very, very strong, if Democrats really show up in the numbers that some
ouais, c'est juste pour un comté, là. Puis t'as genre quasiment 300 000 votes de différence. C'est quand même fou.
What's going on in Miami-Dade just to the south.
Andrew, you want to weigh in here?
Yeah, just to weigh in on Miami-Dade, the real problem, I think, early on is labeling Joe Biden as a socialist. And the fact that the Biden campaign was very slow to respond to that, also didn't canvass. Because of COVID, they were not canvassing. The Trump campaign has been canvassing in Florida for 3 years. The Biden campaign only came in recently. That's why they sent Barack Obama in twice in just the last couple of weeks, the last week. And in fact, it may not be enough to
j'aime ça voir statewide, ça a l'air de quoi, là.
Also, the policies that Chuck was referring to, policies on Cuba and Venezuela,
ouais, cool.
coming out of the State Department, they have been just pouring the stuff out. to attract those Latin American people who are tied to their home countries.
And the socialism label, you're saying, kind of stuck to Joe Biden harder there with that particular community of voters?
And he's going to have to overcome that for the rest of Florida.
Chuck, is this a
Biden est en avance de 3 pour les grands électeurs, ce qui est déjà bon.
Il est en quoi?
En avance de 3, 16 contre 13.
Non, à date c'est 3-11. Pour NBC, à date c'est 3-11.
Ben, selon The Associated Press.
Correct. Genre, PBS, ils ont dit qu'eux, ils allaient pas caller de gagnant autre que ce que l'Associated Press va caller, genre.
Ouais, mais de toute façon, je sais pas si on va vraiment avoir un résultat ce soir.
Ouais, non, c'est sûr, je comprends, là. Mais même à ça,
Already, Trump has more vote than any Republicans ever gotten in Duval, and he may lose it. And Biden's got a whopping 250,000. But one of the things that I've noticed that could help out Joe Biden if he's struggling in Miami-Dade is that just very carefully, you can see he's improving on Clinton's margins by 1 or 2 points in important counties along here. I'm going down the west
là,
coast
je pense au travail de tout ce que j'ai parce que je suis mal.
Republicans, a lot of college-educated Republicans down here, snowbirds. And I'm just going to throw these counties. Watch the Clinton number, watch the Biden percentage, just so you can see here. He's just slightly improving on her by 2 points almost across the board. That's a 3.5-point gain there in Charlotte County. And this is here, Lee County. This is Fort Myers. As you can see, he's improved by 3.5 points. This is how Joe Biden can overcome that poor turnout, if you will, for him in Miami-Dade. If he's shaving 2 or 3 points in every other county, then suddenly you're in a situation where that's how you, again, it's my point.
Bon, ok, je l'ai.
I think that makes your point. You never put that puzzle together the same way twice. We'll get to your mom's house in the next break, but we're going to take a little moment here.
Il va aller chez la mère de l'autre.
Biggest wave of poll closings, it's coming up, including Florida and Pennsylvania, just moments away. Stay with us right here on election night.
Ça ici, 16. Tech settings.
Breaking news in our changing world. Download the NBC News app.
Je vais tout mettre à 18, I guess. Ok, c'est... Ah, ok, là, on voit les choses au complet maintenant. Là.
Good morning, welcome to Today. We're glad to have you with us.
This fall, we're right there with you. Whether you're back to school,
peut-être que je renomme les choses.
Or back to work, we're keeping you safe. I love being back. Every morning on Today.
Police murder of unarmed black men has been an American way of death across centuries. After seeing the most
sur quelle chaîne en ce moment?
Là, j'étais sur NBC. Je vais refresh. Je pense qu'il y a quoi qui commence à rusher, man. Comment ça, mon CPU, il roule à 100%? Attends une minute, là. Attends, je vais carrément fermer ça parce que c'est inutile. Oh, man. Je roule à 100%. C'est bad, là. Fuck, c'est bad. On va fermer Steam. Fudge. Man. Oh.
Well, all my prior opinions have been.
J'ai-tu upload? J'ai rien upload, man.
No, I think, you know,
oh, attends, je peux fermer ça.
This trend throughout the year, which was college-educated whites were going to the Democratic Party.
Ça fait rien. Oh oui! Je suis tombé de 96% à 88%. Ok, ok, ça va me donner. Je me demandais pourquoi l'ordi répondait pas, genre. Ah, fuck, il est remonté.
C'est quoi, finalement?
C'était pas rien, finalement. C'est normal. J'ai trop de choses qui roulent.
And so, in my view, that's two things if these results hold. One, the Republicans ran really hard. The Democrats are the party of socialism. And B, Latino economic...
Ah, mais la musique, elle avait arrêté, man.
À
cause des pubs, c'est con. Je me demandais aussi pourquoi il se passait rien.
it's a Cuban-American story, then it's isolated to Florida. If it's a Hispanic story, a bigger
La musique n'est pas juste dans le stream, je pensais qu'elle était sur ton stream.
could have effect on a lot of states.
Well, I want to pick up
Ouais,
on
mais
that
j'avais.
and ask,
Elle avait arrêté la musique.
about that, because we just heard Tim Murtaugh, who's communications director for the Trump campaign, say they expect
je pense que c'est
that
ça.
Donald Trump will double his percentage of the black vote from 8% to 16%.
Ah, ok, je comprends.
Yeah,
Ok,
this
il
year,
faut
and
que.
then he will
2
go from
secondes encore, tout le
48%
monde.
Latino vote to
Je tape ça
40%
ici.
this year.
Start.
We don't know yet if that's what's happening, but that's a pretty bold prediction.
It's a bold prediction, and I think I would say he stands a better chance of coming closer to his prediction with the Latino vote than he stands a chance of coming anywhere near his prediction for the African American vote. Look, I will give the Trump campaign credit for at least trying to go for the African American vote. There was a survey that was done a couple of weeks ago that showed that the president's support among black men had hit in the double digits. This one particular survey that I'm thinking of had it above 15%. The New York Times Siena College poll recently had it at 11%. But still, you know, for a president who has had many, I should put it this way, the African American community.
Ah man, je pense que j'ai trouvé c'est quoi le culprit. Ah non, j'ai pas trouvé. Je roule quand même avec un CPU 12 thread là. Puis il roule dans le fond là. Oh, j'ai-tu des skip frames? J'ai pas de drop frames, c'est ça qui est cool au moins.
Non, c'est ça, de mon bord, ça paraît pas.
Oh, North Carolina.
But I do think the inroads into
Quand tu vois genre PBS, eux autres, les chefs de la Associated Press, c'est genre c'est déjà 16 à 13 là, comme tu disais là.
Johnson, what do you see in the Trump appeal to these two minority groups?
You know, David made a good point that it's difficult to talk about Hispanics because Hispanics are not a monolith. Of course, Cubans are more conservative and other Hispanics more liberal. But one of the things that's caught my attention, and it is tough to offer analysis without really knowing the results, is which issues voters have said were important to them. Of course, the top issue, I don't think it will surprise anyone, was the coronavirus, but that was closely followed by the economy and jobs, where the president has traditionally had a slight advantage over Biden. Most striking, though, was that immigration, which to me was the defining issue of the 2016
counties. And again, I emphasize this Biden number is improving. What it tells me when the Trump number doesn't move, it's the third party vote. And remember, we've talked about that. One of the bigger differences between 16 and 20 is no Gary Johnson. You know, you look here, Gary Johnson got 3% in this county and in Brevard. Where's that 3% all going? It looks like it's almost all going to Biden. Just think about that tonight when you think about the other states. If we're seeing a similar pattern here of third-party vote, suddenly basically lumping into what the old Clinton number was, and that's your new Biden number, and as you see here,
Quand une différence de 50 000 de 50 000 là, man, c'est big.
At the Trump in 2016, though, it says 181,000 votes, but he's got 195.
Je le regarde à côté, c'est quoi que tu dis?
Dans le county de Brevard County, 53 000 de différence pareil.
C'est pas mal.
Ouais. Qu'est-ce qui prend toutes mes ressources CPU, man? C'est con,
You ready to go to work?
c'est Firefox. Je pense que je vais devoir arrêter la musique de Noël en tant
But who is Kamala Harris?
Je vais voir la différence que ça
Join me,
fait.
Joy Reid, to explore her life's journey from Oakland to Washington on my 6-part podcast, Kamala Next in Line. New episodes every Monday. Subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts.
Washington feels more chaotic than ever.
Le player de Spotify dans le browser Firefox donnait quasiment 20% de CPU, là. Yo, quasiment, là. Entre 10 et 20. Mais c'est genre assez énorme, là. Genre facilement 10% de CPU. Juste pour un player de musique, là.
Washington feels more chaotic than ever.
Qui est genre web browser.
Left and right.
Wow,
mine des big
make sense of it all.
Oui, machine. Non, mais je pense qu'à cause de mon Pi-hole, ça bloque les endpoints de ça, je pense. Pas mal ça.
Choice to be next in line. But who is Kamala Harris? Join me, Joy
Pour vrai, c'est
Reid, to
tristement
explore her
hot, là.
life's journey from Oakland to Washington
Genre, check, là,
on
je
my
l'ai ici,
6-part
le lien, là.
podcast, Kamala Next in Line. New episodes
Ah,
every
fuck,
Monday.
il est disabled,
Subscribe
j'aurais
for free
aimé bon.
wherever you get your podcasts.
Non, mais parce que des fois, quand faut que je connecte mon stream, il y a des plugins dans Twitch que je veux changer, puis c'est ça. Ouais, man, check out, j'ai quand même 12% de bloc. Ah, puis sur une grosse période ici qui a rien. Mais j'ai quand même 1,5 million de domaines bloqués. Hein.
Vraiment, je le fasse, comme je te dis, j'ai deux pailles qui traînent sur mon bureau en ce moment.
Ouais.
That was their top issue. So I think what we can say is that the issues that are defining this election are far different than those that defined the 2016 election, with immigration almost completely disappearing. And I think you have to assume that that would have helped the president with Hispanic voters.
All right. We are going to leave it there with the four of you, but come back to you as soon as we can. Eliana, Jonathan, David, and Mark. And Amy, if you would just quickly pick up on that, because we really didn't know coming into tonight what that was going to be.
What the just in terms of what the main issues were going to be.
What the main issues were going to be.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think we know, and I think this was a very important conversation to have about the
Genre, on dirait que je réalise pas à quel point genre, on est dans le moment live là, que ça va se passer à soir. Que ça va continuer pour le reste de la semaine. Là.
When you're talking about suburban voters,
je trouve que ça va être fou.
Ouais, c'est ça, parce que ça fait juste commencer.
Ouais, ça fait juste commencer, yo. Dans 5 minutes, on a la prochaine batch de trucs qui repartent, là.
For example, in Georgia, how that's breaking out now in the AP Votecast. And you see Joe Biden leading Donald Trump in the Georgia suburbs, which not that long ago, you go back to the Mitt Romney era, you don't have to go all the way back much further than that, and those numbers probably would have been reversed. So the inroads making there, but it doesn't necessarily help in a place like South Florida, which is so much more heavily Cuban and, of course, more diverse Latino population there.
So many cross currents. That's right. In the state of Florida.
Ah, ça tue pas mal.
Amy Walter, all right,
c'est con comment la musique, ça fuck le chien, man. J'ai l'impression que je suis comme à un process de faire sauter l'ordi.
That's right, Judy. We turn now to another key battleground. Jeff Tiberi is the Capitol Bureau Chief and host of WUNC Politics Podcast for North Carolina.
La musique n'est pas absolument nécessaire,
Jeff, good to see you. And let's talk about this key Senate race everyone's talking about, huh? There is the incumbent Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who is fending off a challenge from the Democrat, that's Cal Cunningham. What is the state of the race, and what does it tell us about what could happen at the top of the ticket in North Carolina?
Genre, ça vaut même pas la peine d'aller voir.
This is a tight race. The polls for months have indicated that it is within the margin of error. And as a reminder, this is quite possibly the 50th or the 51st seat for either the
Republican sa production est tellement mieux que PBS, ça me fait, je trouve ça triste.
Ouais, il est plus le fun à regarder, mais il y a tellement d'annonces que ça en
ouais, hein, mais faut qu'ils payent leur setup, yo.
I'm back with journalist Jeff Greenfield.
Mais tu sais, PBS, il n'y a pas d'annonce, je pense presque pas ou jamais. C'est genre le Télé-Québec américain.
After Biden became the presumptive nominee, he made a promise. Listen to this.
I commit that I will, in fact, I'll pick a woman to be vice president. There are a number of women who are qualified to be president tomorrow. I would pick a woman to be my vice president.
So after months of vetting, he selects California Senator Kamala Harris to be his running mate. She was a rival of his during the primary. But Jeff, what was the strategy behind Biden announcing he would share the ticket with a woman?
The Democratic Party has known for some time the only way it wins elections is with women's votes, because there's a gender gap over the last couple of decades. It's now the size of the Grand Canyon. And so the idea of two men on the ticket was just politically a non-starter for the Democrats. And that, I think, explains why he did something most nominees don't do. Most nominees like to leave their options wide open. Biden was telling women from the get-go, it's going to be...
Ah merde, Karen est partie coucher, c'est triste parce que j'avais demandé d'aller me faire rappeler ma danse avec de la Bodo.
You're talking about a couple of things. You're talking about the fact that in 2016...
Hey, donc, lâche-moi le vinaigre, yo. Au 19? 19, ça dit quoi? C'est quoi d'autre qui est rentré pour Trump? Latest presidential results. Trump? Ah, ok, le Kentucky.
When you look at the scrutiny on Senator Harris during this campaign, was it more given the fact that President Biden would be the oldest president to take office were he to win tonight?
Sure. Generationally, he has become so younger than himself, which is most of the country, which I think is one reason
T'es sur quel site, boy?
Fairly close to Biden in age was a non-starter.
Google, U.S. election.
Ok, ouais.
Another kind of unity. Remember that during the first debate,
On va voir sur Fox qu'est-ce qu'il en pense. Allô? Yo, ça va? What the... Je suis là qui voit rien. Est-ce que c'est juste ça leur coverage sur YouTube? Wow. Election night, election results.
Quasiment pas.
Genre voir que Fox aurait genre juste mis ça. Je comprends pas. Genre check là. Il y a ça. Il y a rien d'autre. Puis si tu check genre dans le timeline, il y a rien non plus là. Il y a rien. Ah regarde, les autres ils donnent déjà ces affaires là. Weird. PBS. ABC. Qu'est-ce qui se passe sur ABC? C'est un peu mieux? Ah ouais, c'est mieux, on arrive sur une pub. Yes. Parle-moi d'une affaire.
From New York City and across the country, Election Night 2020. Now reporting, Chief Anchor George Stephanopoulos.
Oh, il y en a qui commençaient à 8, oublie pas.
In 16 more states and we have more results. In the state of New Jersey, Joe Biden will win the state of New Jersey.
Projected winner.
Oh, mais t'es où, hein?
ABC.
We will check that. Another projection also, state of Massachusetts, Joe Biden will win the state of Massachusetts right there, and it's 11 electoral votes. Joe Biden will win the state of Maryland, and it's 10 electoral votes. A pickup for Donald Trump in the state of Oklahoma. He, of course, won that last time around. 7 electoral votes at play, and Donald Trump will win those. Joe Biden will win his home state of Delaware, and it's 3 electoral votes. Joe Biden will win.
Ok, ouais, ABC, eux autres, genre, ils niaisent pas, là. Eux autres, ils ont mis comme 44 à 15 déjà, là.
Ouais, mais c'est 85-55 pour Joe Biden.
Où ça?
Ouais, encore sur Associated Press.
Yo, man, pourquoi j'allais là, m'amener là? Associated Press.
Yeah, and actually, there's some good news for Joe Biden out of Ohio. The Biden campaign didn't really contest Ohio.
Et c'est la source, là. Je suis juste allé sur Google.
Ouais, ok, bon, là, je l'ai. Est-ce qu'il update tout seul?
Oui.
Non, c'est pas grave. J'aime mieux mon beau chose de NBC. Il est plus beau. Ah, mais regarde, tu vois, ça vient d'updater le 46-26 sur NBC. Ah, je peux faire ça. C'est plus interactif, tu comprends? Ça bouge, des animations.
Correct, il est plus beau, il est juste moins jaune.
Exact, c'est correct. C'est là pour des infos à titre indicatif seulement. Et fait que techniquement, ça n'a rien changé. Fait que je vais pouvoir resetter l'autre. Virtual cam, stop. Well, start virtual cam.
Okay, Tom, thanks. What have we seen in the exit polls there, David?
Yeah, it's really different. Tom points out some encouraging numbers, but the exit polls reflect something slightly different in Ohio. If you take a look at the president's job performance in Ohio, 54% approve, 44% disapprove. This is the strongest number we're seeing in that sort of upper Midwest of the country. And when you break it down to those two central issues, containing COVID, rebuilding the economy, 48% say the pandemic is more important to try to contain. But here's where it gets interesting, George. I was digging a little deeper here. The vast majority of Ohio voters prefer Trump over Biden to handle the pandemic moving forward, 51 to 46%. And that's even with the governor, Mike DeWine, who received such high marks for his handling of the pandemic in recent days, saying it's raging throughout the state. But still, Ohio voters, despite what they're seeing with COVID, believe President Trump is the best to handle this moving
Yvette
forward.
Simpson, your home state, what do you make of the early results?
You know, it's looking good. Even in places like Delaware County and Mahoning County, we're seeing Joe Biden outperform Hillary Clinton by 10, 20%, which is really great. And as you know, Ohio has got a lot to prove. We make presidents, we made Barack Obama both times, and so I think Ohio Ohio has a chip on his shoulder, and we're ready to flip back to blue in this one. A lot
Kentucky.
of hard work going on in Ohio, and hopefully we can deliver.
Ah, c'est pas que genre ABC mette pas genre combien ça se fait.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in Iowa, though, I'm not pessimistic yet.
Quoi?
I think the first votes often come in are the absentees.
Combien de grands électeurs ça serait?
Across the country with absentees.
Genre Massachusetts, ok, mais ça, New Hampshire, ok, mais ça donne combien là?
In Iowa, there seems to be a lot of momentum for Republicans, and what we see across the board here is that places you expect Republicans to win appear to be closing for Republicans. Really, North Carolina, Georgia, that's what this is going to come down to tonight.
Okay, thanks very much. Let's go to Adrian Bankert in Columbus. Adrian, as David Muir said, COVID has been raging through the state of Ohio.
J'ai eu ma première panne en vol aujourd'hui.
Yes, that's right, George. In fact, new numbers posted today saying that there were over 4,200 new cases of the virus here in Ohio.
Rien de trop grave, là. C'est une petite panne électrique, là. C'est pas le moteur qui a lâché.
Ah, ok. Mais une panne électrique de quoi, yo?
Le transpondeur a été de fonctionner, fait qu'il a fallu qu'on
Le transpondeur, c'est quoi? C'est ce qui permet de parler à du monde?
Non, c'est dans le fond, c'est ce qui fait que les taureaux nous voient.
Oh, Chris, ok.
Il y a bien des endroits que tu es obligé de l'avoir, dont à Saint-Hubert. Puis finalement, on est revenu sans. Ils ont laissé rentrer pareil parce qu'il n'y avait pas beaucoup de monde, mais comme content que ça soit arrivé pareil.
Pourquoi?
C'est vraiment rien de très important, mais c'est quand même une genre de situation de crise, si tu me permets le terme.
Oui, je comprends, parce que ça te permet quand même de réagir dans cette situation-là un peu.
Ça semble ça.
Ah, c'est cool, c'est cool. Yo, la Floride. Tu vois que genre Trump vient de passer la Floride.
Ouais, mais depuis tantôt, en tout cas, quand je regardais, il me semble, au tout début, là, c'était... Regarde, ça revient de
même la Georgie, là, tabarouette, c'est chaud. Wow, man. Mais l'affaire, c'est que la Floride, il y a du vote démocrate qui va continuer de rentrer après aussi.
Yeah, he's ahead, and I'll tell you one data point right now that to me is the most interesting so far. The absentee early vote, 77% of the expected vote in. That's going to be the early vote. And look at these numbers, George. The conventional wisdom was that Democrats were going to blow out Republicans in the early vote. And in Florida right now, it is neck and neck. Every time we look at the state, it's getting closer and closer. But what we have to keep our eye on right here is this section of the state right here. We're talking about Pensacola, the Panhandle. That is Trump country. The votes are still out there, and it's important because this is such a close race. One of the problems, besides Miami-Dade County, for Joe Biden is that he's underperforming in some Democratic counties, places like Osceola. He has a big lead there, but he's underperforming from where Hillary Clinton was 4 years ago. We look at Orlando, which was ravaged by COVID, especially the economy there. He's doing a little better there. That's a good spot for him. And he's made some gains in places like Jacksonville, Duval. This is a Republican county. He's winning right there. It is so close right now, George. We're going to have to keep our eye on this state minute by minute because we're talking about thousands of votes at certain parts of the night.
Okay, Tom Yamas. Mary Bruce, what is the Biden campaign telling you about Florida?
Well, all day long they have been telling us that they knew that Florida was going to be a toss-up. They, I suspect, are pouring over these numbers just like we are. Look, in areas like Miami-Dade, for instance.
Ah ben oui, il y en a quand même des... Oui, excuse, il y en a plein, là.
But I suspect they are very surprised to see just how close it is in that area right now. They have spent a lot of time, really the
Delaware.
entire Biden team, fanning out across the state in these final days. Joe Biden was in Florida today, the candidate's wife, Barack Obama,
DC,
Biden's not-so-secret
Maine,
biggest weapon
non, pas Maine, Vermont, New Jersey, Kentucky, l'Indiana. Il y en a quand même pas mal de rentrées.
So they've put a lot of effort into trying to get out the vote there. And so much
Georgia.
of the message there, of course, on the pandemic as they try to target senior
La
voters.
Georgie, par contre, le vote par correspondance ne peut pas être compté d'avance, je
Biden,
pense.
during one of his 3 trips to the state, speaking to a group of seniors and saying how many of them this year haven't been able to go out and hug their grandchildren, trying to directly tie the president's handling of this pandemic to their own personal lives, to their own families. That is a message that the Biden team is hopeful will resonate in the state. But man, it is very close right now. I know they are looking at these numbers just as closely as we are, George.
They certainly are. Cecilia Cecilia Vega, the president changed his registration earlier this year to vote in Florida.
Yeah, George, I think it's hard for a lot of people to remember because we think of Donald Trump as a New Yorker, but he is now a Florida resident. The First Lady just voted in Florida this morning. He changed his residence from New York to Florida not too long ago, and this is a state that he has visited more than any other during the course of his presidency, some 82 visits over the course of the last 4 years, and he has been there numerous times over the course of this election and spent $78 million down there in Florida. And our team is hearing from sources who are telling us that the president, George, is over the moon with the numbers that he is seeing come in from Florida, especially Miami-Dade. I think they thought the Democrats would have an advantage at this stage of the night, looking at the early voting that was happening there on their end. So they are clearly very pleased with what they are seeing at this point. And we're also told, George, that President Trump inside is watching these returns between the residence and the East Room here in the White House where that event is taking place.
Okay, Cecilia, thanks very much. Nate Silver, let's remind everybody what happens to your projection if Donald Trump actually wins the state of Florida.
So, yeah, let's see. He's at 10%. It's going to shoot way up if he wins Florida. It's going to take a little bit of time to calculate here. But Trump, if he wins Florida, is much more in the running. He's about a 1 in 3 chance of winning overall. The one silver lining for Biden a bit is that this seems to be mostly concentrated among Cubans in South Florida. It might not translate to other parts of the country. But, you know, Florida would be the first step toward a Trump upset.
Okay, Nate Silver, thanks very much. Let's take a look at the key state of Georgia right now. Let's pull that up. We've got about 11% of the expected vote in, and Donald Trump has the lead.
Let's take a look at Georgia right now. We do want to say, though, there is a lot of the vote that is not in Georgia, and that's important because you have the state of Georgia, and then you have the state of Atlanta and the suburbs, and 50% of the vote for the state of Georgia is going to come out of here. So, George, it is still very, very early. Any signs for either campaign? Look, there's a lot of red counties. Georgia got redder in those red counties after 2016, but the blue counties expanded. They got bluer. So many people moving to Georgia. Right now, it's tough to say whose state this is. Only 11% of the vote in, and a lot of the Atlanta metro area still needs to come in. But we can't talk about Cobb County. Cobb County, once the home of Newt Gingrich, and at 63%, with 31% of the vote in, Joe Biden's overperforming Hillary Clinton. If he's going to win Georgia, he has to win big in Atlanta and the surrounding suburbs. And tonight, right now, if this holds, and this is the trend, that's good news for Joe Biden.
One of the other ones, I don't know if you can pull it up. Can you pull up Gwinnett County?
It's not in yet. We don't have information for it yet, but that was one of the counties that Hillary Clinton flipped 4 years ago. We're going to be watching it closely so far. And the reason why we don't have information, I want to explain this to our voters. We want to make sure we have enough of a sample in to kind of say who's winning what and the votes being counted. We're not there yet.
What are we seeing in the exits there?
A couple of things out of Georgia, George, to take a look at. First of all, let's take a look at. They just switched this up on me right here. Let's take a look at Georgia's job performance. 50% job that President Trump is doing on the all-important issue. 51%, though, say the pandemic is most important. But I've been diving into some of the numbers in Georgia. The racial and ethnic makeup, minorities making up 4 in 10 Georgia voters. That matches the 2016 numbers for Hillary Clinton. When it comes to moderates, even 39%. With conservatives, that also matches 4 years ago. Now, this is interesting. In Atlanta, strong support in Atlanta brought Clinton to within 5 points of Trump 4 years ago. That is up slightly to 20% of the voters. There's a slight uptick there. But again, he's holding his own in the exit polls. The president in Georgia, they're giving him the edge in handling the pandemic moving forward as well.
TJ Holmes is in Atlanta. What are you hearing on the ground?
Well, we're here on the ground here, and you all made those important points there about where I am. I'm standing in this Atlanta metro area where, yes, this is a big state, 159 counties, but 50% of the vote is wrapped up in 4 counties right here in the surrounding area. And you've been talking about Cobb and Gwinnett counties. Those 2 counties, yes, Hillary Clinton lost this state by 5 percentage points, but she picked up Gwinnett and Cobb County. Those are 2 counties that are the 2nd and 3rd most populous counties in the state of Georgia. And she was the first Democrat to pick up those 2 counties since Jimmy Carter, the son of Georgia, did so back in 1976. So this is a big deal here if they can perform, if Joe Biden can perform well in this area. Now, we might not know for some time. We're expecting to start, George, getting some results
pour gagner de l'État, c'est-tu ton nombre de votes ou c'est le nombre de counties que tu as gagné, genre, au total?
They didn't count
Mais je demande ça par rapport aux grands électeurs aussi.
Ouais, non, mais c'est ça, je me demande. Est-ce qu'ils donnent les grands électeurs de l'État au nombre total de votes pour le candidat ou c'est par la majorité de county dans l'État? Tu comprends? C'est pas la même chose. Je pense que c'est par county. Faut que tu gagnes un nombre de county. Ah, man, je sais pas, je sais pas. Hey, je sais juste vraiment pas. Puis le pire, c'est quoi? C'est qu'en plus, ça doit dépendre de l'État, man. Ça doit être comme même. Il n'y a pas grand vote en Caroline du Sud, mais je sais pas ce qui se passe. Ça doit être le vote par anticipation en Caroline du Sud.
Tennessee has just come in for Donald Trump. Tennessee and its 11 electoral votes will go for Donald Trump. Also, Donald Trump has now picked up the state of Indiana and its electoral votes. So it's still quite early in the night. We have to be patient. Every state that's gone has gone the way it was expected to go. 6
à date,
states
oui, y a
for
rien
Joe
de...
Biden, 4 for Donald Trump. Long night ahead. We'll be right back.
Ah, même chose pour moi. On va aller faire un pipi. Je vais mettre un peu de pub là, quelques secondes, puis je reviens. Ah, mon Noël be right back, là, c'est pas cool. Passer. Regarde. Ah oui, je peux faire ça de même. Comme ça, comme ça. Bon, je suis de retour. Me voici, me voilà. Oh man, j'étais timé avec eux.
And we're back with our coverage on election night 2020, and we can say now that Mitch McConnell in the state of Kentucky has been re-elected to the Senate. Mitch McConnell has been the Republican leader. Too early to say whether he'll continue to be the Republican leader, but we can say he will continue to be a senator. Mitch McConnell has won tonight. Let's take a deeper dive now at the state of Virginia. It's still too early for us to project about 26% of the expected vote in, and right now it appears, Tom Yamas, that Donald Trump has a sizable lead.
Yeah, it's still really early, as you mentioned. I want to blow up Virginia here because it's a little smaller in our map. Here's part of the problem right now, why we don't have a good sense of what's going on. The D.C. suburbs, Alexandria, Arlington, that entire area, Fairfax, that's going to be 25% of the vote, and a lot of that so far we don't have in. But where Donald Trump is winning, he's doing really well, and he's actually overperforming in some areas. When we look at Henrico County, this was a county Democrats won pretty decisively 4 years ago. You can see 57 to 36. Tonight, right now, with 36% of the vote in, Donald Trump's on top. In the swing area, down here in the Hamptons Road area, Virginia Beach, Donald Trump barely lost 4 years ago. Tonight, he's up, and he's up big. But again, it's still very early in Virginia, George. We're still waiting for a lot of the vote to come in. You see a lot of these.
Yo, c'est la Virginie flip, ça fuck le chien, man.
4 years ago,
c'est dead.
When the blue filled in,
c'est dead
that's
pour
when
Biden.
Democrats won.
Tom Yamas, thanks very much. Now let's pull up Texas. Seemed to become a battleground late in the game of this campaign.
Yeah, so we take a look at Texas. A lot of the vote not in yet. What we do have, of course, the most important county in Texas, the biggest county, Harris County right here. This is Houston, 56 to 42. He's matching
les deux ont amélioré sûrement.
One of the big reasons Democrats thought this area was in play, that Republicans were vulnerable, is because Donald Trump underperformed from Mitt Romney, and he did it in an area here. I actually want to check one of these counties. Fort Worth, this is Republican territory, right next to Dallas. This is Fort Worth. It's neck and neck with 80% of the vote in. That's actually very good news for Democrats. Democrats have to be very happy about that number. Just north in the suburbs of Fort Worth, Denton. This is also a Republican county, 45-52. But you can see right there, George, Joe Biden, he's building on Hillary Clinton, what she had. He's overperforming there. Still a lot of the vote.
Mais yo, la Virginie est en train de flipper pour Trump, man. Ça vient de tuer Biden, ça arrive.
For Democrats, we'll be watching Austin, Bexar County, San Antonio, and of course the ring county.
Non, big time.
Okay, thank you, Marcus.
Il y a combien de pourcents du vote qui est fait,
Putain, il n'y a pas tant de fait, je veux dire.
2016 vote with days to go in this campaign.
Yeah, George, that was really the major storyline heading into this election. More than 9.5 million people casting their ballots early here in Texas.
Ohio.
That, as you said, surpassed the
Man, l'écart.
entirely. And so,
ouais, la Virginie, man. La Virginie, je sais pas.
Tonight, and the polls just closed here.
Pas besoin de la Floride, Rochon.
And in most of Texas, but they are still open out to our west in El Paso. So, of course, a few people know that Texas actually
Ce qui est grave, c'est que ça va pas bien en Virginie. Ça, c'est bad, man. ABC.
Will be bringing in the various ballots from the polling locations, nearly 800 of them in Harris County alone, and they will be counting them here tonight, George. And so far, things have gone smoothly here. Only a couple of polling stations opened late because of technical difficulties, and so that has been good news. Also, the weather was perfect here, and both sides of this campaign, the Republicans and Democrats, encouraged by that, and certainly, clearly, when we talk about the voter turnout, it has been massive here in Texas, and it is the reason why Democrats feel like they can turn this historically red state blue. And of course, time will tell if that happens, George.
Marcus Moore, thanks very much. Dad, you're there in Austin. Texas has been changing. The question is how fast?
NBC
Well, it
News.
has been changing. It was a state that Mitt Romney won by 16 and
c'est
Donald
pas
Trump
pareil
won
qu'NBC
by
normal.
9, and then Beto O'Rourke finished 2.5% behind Ted Cruz. And so it's been changing slowly. Donald Trump's has speeded that up somewhat. But I think one of the key signs is this is going to be a very close race. I mean, usually, George, when we're here, we've already called Texas and we're moving on.
La Virginie a juste 27% in, puis c'est 58-39 à date. Là. Il y a un retard de 240 000 votes.
Oh mon Dieu. C'est-tu les villes ou c'est plus les...
C'est ça qu'il disait tantôt, là, qu'il reste encore des gros spots à aller chercher, mais...
Donald Trump is only 7 points ahead in that county with 98%
Ah, mais check en
of the vote in.
Pennsylvanie, OK, il y a 3%
That
du vote,
shows
ça peut rien
what's
dire.
happening in the suburban areas.
Okay, Matt Dowd, thanks very much. We can project
Ça veut
another
absolument
state
rien
for
dire.
Donald Trump right now, West Virginia. West Virginia and its 5 electoral votes will go
Ouais,
to
ouais,
Donald
ça, c'est
Trump. Only
correct.
10% of the expected vote in it, but that is a clear win tonight for Donald Trump. So let's take another look at the board. Right now you see Joe Biden has 44 electoral votes. Donald Trump has 42. We have a long way to go on this election night 2020. We'll be right back.
Be right back. Ah, Fox, est-ce qu'ils sont rendus up, là, eux autres? Ils ont-tu comme décidé de se réveiller ou pas, tu penses?
Question?
Voyons aussi. Fox, y a rien. Weird. ManyCam.
Streaming only on Disney Plus. Focus of this election night zeroes in on Pennsylvania. We are going to turn now to Congresswoman Madeleine Dean. She's Democratic representative serving the area north of Philadelphia, and she joins us now from Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. Representative Dean, thank you very much.
Ah non, c'est ça, man. Si Biden perd la Virginie, man, il perd la présidence. C'est quasiment sûr. Biden avait besoin de rien perdre par rapport à 2016, puis d'aller chercher Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan, puis d'ajouter soit Arizona ou Floride ou Georgie ou Caroline du Nord ou Pennsylvanie ou Ohio. Mais là, s'il perd les 13 de Virginie, yo man, faut que je fasse le calcul là. Actual. On flippe ça rouge, on met ça. Et bah, il en manquait 15. Oh! Yes, là, c'est ça. Même avec l'Ohio, il en manquerait 7 à ce moment-là. Il en manquerait 7 qui... C'est soit la Pennsylvanie... Oh my God, man, ça serait le bout de la merde. Mais ce serait pas l'Ohio, je pense pas. Ah, mais la Pennsylvanie devient importante.
It sure does, because we were seeing polling places with 85 and 90% voter participation. Remarkable.
So how does that compare to 2016, when Hillary Clinton was counting on Pennsylvania, but it didn't deliver for her?
And you know, tragically, what happened here in 2016.
Tragically.
Hillary Clinton lost by 44,000 votes across the entire Commonwealth. Less than 1%. How I think it will turn out is that means that Joe Biden will win, I hope, by 4%, maybe even more. A tremendous difference. One of the reasons for that
c'est chaud, c'est nous aussi.
the ability for mail-in ballot, as you see.
C'est plate, mais ils sont vraiment plates, PBS.
Ouais, vraiment. Mais moi, je le suis sur ABC.
Ouais. Ouais, ça, je viens de le faire, là. Je viens de me remettre à jour sur ABC. Oh man. Il devait espérer en maudit que la Virginie flippe, là, Trump, là. Il a capoté, tu sais. Game coverage resumes shortly.
59 versus 39, mettons, là, il y a quand même 15% des votes, c'est pas grand-chose, tu me diras.
Où ça?
En Virginie.
Ah, en Virginie, ouais, mais, ouais, c'est ça. Mais tu sais, il y a 30% in live, je suis sur la coverage. Hein?
West Virginia, je parle.
Ah ouais, mais West Virginia, c'est déjà gagné, là. C'est pas un enjeu, là. C'est la Virginie normale, Virginia normale. C'est elle que les démocrates avec, puis son live sont en train de perdre là, par 250 000 à 30%. Mais fait que si la Virginie flippe, man, il va falloir que Biden soit capable d'aller chercher 2 États dans Arizona, Floride, Georgie, Caroline du Nord, Ohio, Pennsylvanie. Ça sera pas suffisant, juste un. Juste un était suffisant avant. Avec le Wisconsin et Michigan, genre. Fait que si la Virginie a flip, là, fuck man, je pense que Trump passe. Fuck man. Mitch McConnell. Ah, ça, c'est le chef du Sénat, man. Le chef, la majorité, en fait. Massa. Man, c'est long, ici, ils vont passer de même à nous montrer ça. Hein. Ah ouais, réveille ABC, là. Pas de break. Oh boy.
La petite musique est comme en dormant.
Quasiment un peu pirate des Caraïbes, la musique. Ah, là, ils sont là.
Moins hot.
Ouais, ben oui. Attends, ils nous ont fait pour ça, tout ça pour nous repasser de la pub? Non, je suis pas d'accord.
Ouais, mais eux autres aussi, il fallait qu'il y ait aux toilettes.
Ah non, tu mets un petit pot en dessous de la table, t'aurais personne de ça. Oh, c'est con, les pubs. Oh man, je vais enlever le son parce que je peux me faire copyright strike juste à cause des pubs, man. Oh, ok. Attention à ça. C'est ça? Ouais, ça c'est ça. Ça c'est ça. Attends une minute là. Just stand by me. Bon. Là, ça va avoir de l'allure.
We are back. It's 8:30, and these posts have closed in one more state, the state of Arkansas, but it's too early to project that state right now. Right now, it seems.
Oh, ben non, ça arrivera pas, là.
We're going to go to the state of North Carolina.
Oh, North Carolina
is fighting it out with Donald Trump. Tom Yamas, what's the latest we have on that? It appears to be a Biden lead right now, but a lot of vote yet to come in.
Yeah, right. And a data point we want to talk about right now as we blow up North Carolina here is the early vote.
Mais la Caroline du Nord, c'est les 300 000 d'avance.
And look at this, George.
Mais il y a
Joe Biden is up by 10 points, and that's important because we have to put that in perspective as we look at the rest of the state. He's leading in the early vote now. The president's team has said they're going to win on election day when people actually vote in person. But when we look at the research triangle, this is the areas of Raleigh and Durham. We're talking about Duke and UNC.
Mais faut vraiment checker la Virginie, man.
Joe Biden's overperforming from Hillary Clinton. This is 82% in. This is a great trend right now because for Joe Biden to win, for the Democrats to win in this state, they have to run up the scores in both the research triangle and the triad. These are communities that have pharmaceutical industries, they have tech industries, and they obviously have the universities. They want to run up the score there. Another key county we're watching here is New Hanover. Why are we watching this? Well, it usually mirrors how the state does, right? And a Republican, I should say, a Democrat actually, hasn't won this county since Jimmy Carter. Joe Biden's up right now. It has a good mix of people that live here. You have upper middle class suburbs, you have retirees, you have military families.
C'est quoi les choses qu'on va passer en bas, hein?
So this is a key county we're
Genre
watching. It's
ici.
incredibly important. The city is Wilmington, and for
On dirait
anything
que c'est
else,
du
one of
code.
the reasons why we love this, it's the hometown of Michael Jordan, George. That's important, all right? Okay.
Non, legit, on dirait vraiment du code, genre.
Counties in North Carolina?
Yes, that's right. These three counties that have the highest number of COVID cases right
J'ai
now,
pas vu
all
passer,
voted for
j'aurais-
Hillary Clinton in 2016. Also want to report there were 67
C'est
deaths
weird.
in North Carolina.
Check, on le voit un peu à droite de la fille, là. On voit des lignes rouges qui passent, là.
Everything that we measure in North Carolina is on its way up.
Check, c'est le gros mur blanc, là.
Hospitalizations,
À droite dans l'écran.
positivity cases and deaths as well. Of course, North Carolina was famous for that dust-up, that infamous dust-up now between the popular Democratic Governor Cooper there in North Carolina when President Trump wanted to have the convention there and cases started spiking at the time. Then he planned on moving it to Florida. The cases started spiking there, ultimately moved it back
Non, je
to
sais
North
bien.
Carolina just for kind of the bare bones roll call. But North Carolina not going in the right direction.
Okay, Lindsay, thanks very much. And what did the exit polls say there, David?
Really interesting when you take a look at opinions of both of these candidates in North Carolina. Opinion of Donald Trump, 52% unfavorable there, underwater, obviously, from those numbers. When you look at Joe Biden, favorable, 49 to 47. And when it comes to handling the economy,
Il y a encore 250 000 de différence là, en Virginie, man.
Very close there, though. Really negligible. But when you laser in on the pandemic.
Puis il y a encore le 300 000 de différence qui se maintient en Ohio, man. Oh, man, c'est... Attends, là, on va refaire les calculs de 2012.
En Ohio, c'est...
Non, ça l'était pas. Check, regarde ce stream, là. Bon, peu importe. OK, fait que ça, c'est en 2000... chose. On redonne ça aux républicains, on donne ça aux démocrates. Puis North Carolina, là, paf. Fait qu'en perdant la Virginie, mais en gagnant Caroline du Nord puis Ohio, ça fait démocrate 278. Là. Fait que, mais ça, c'est parce que ça compense. Là. Ça compense la perte de la Virginie. Si c'est ça, puis là, on sait pas ce qui se passe en Pennsylvanie, ni en Georgie. En Georgie, ça ressemble à quoi? Oh, en Georgie, Trump a live, big time. Ah ouais, mais Trump a live big time in à 22% in, mais ça serait parce que le vote par anticipation, il arrive après pas mal. Puis Trump, il est juste 200 000 d'avance en Floride. Genre 2%.
Well, George, I have to tell you, these vote numbers, early numbers, still early, make both campaigns nervous. The Trump people told us early on they expected to be down maybe 5 to 8 points. The Biden people said they expected to be up 10 to 15 points, and right now there's about a 9-point difference. North Carolina is vital to the Trump campaign. The president has visited this state 11 times in the last 3 months.
91% de la Floride in, on dirait que ça marche pas. On dirait qu'il y a trop de votes par anticipation qui n'ont pas été comptés là-bas. Là. Parce qu'il n'y avait pas le droit de commenter. Yeah, gang! Hey, what up, Ginge? Ginge vient de nous joindre, man. Ça, c'est chill. Yo, man, qu'est-ce que tu veux qu'on do it? Qu'est-ce que tu veux qu'on do it? Tu veux qu'on aille là-bas, man, puis qu'on dise toi tu gagnes, puis toi tu perds? Qu'est-ce que tu veux qu'on just do it, yo?
They see North Carolina as their white flag state. If they lose this state early, that is a bad sign for what may come tonight.
He's got to win North Carolina. He's got to win Florida. Mary Bruce, the Biden campaign not giving up on North Carolina yet. They're still pushing the vote.
Not at all, George. In fact, we've been noticing on Twitter many Biden campaigns.
Pourquoi ça n'aurait pas marché, yo? J'ai toutes les choses dans mon stream qui sont setupées, man, sont supposées fonctionner. Hein. Mais on Jen, je vois que ça n'aurait pas marché. Qu'est-ce que tu fais là? J'ai tout seté mon stream pour que ça marche. Hein. Hashtag professionnel. C'est certain, man. On check mon layout, là. Si tu trouves pas qu'ils ont 800 000 affaires, c'est fou.
And poring over these early results, these early exit polls, one of the figures that David just cited sticks out to me among moderates, which broke for Clinton by 20 points.
Okay, la Georgie a de l'air complètement flip, fait que ça se passera pas en Georgie. Puis la Floride a de l'air d'être en train de se perdre, mais le vote par... Oh non, le vote par anticipation, il disait que c'était 50-50. Ouais.
Ah, mais Georgie, c'est bien beau, là.
Ouais, attends, il parle de la Floride, là. Ouais, c'est ça, tu vois. Il y a une avance de 200 000.
This does look good for Donald Trump right now. There are not a lot of places for Democrats to make up this vote. It is still very, very close. But George, the story of the night is Miami-Dade County. Look at these totals right now.
Ah, ouais, il a reculé 9% par Clinton. Ouais, mais ça, c'est juste un... C'est pas 100 000.
And tonight, if we look at it right now, the spread less than 100,000 votes. Republicans were successful in trying to tie Democrats and Joe Biden, even though he made it very clear publicly he's not a socialist. They were very successful, it appears, in maybe possibly doing that, tying him to that. It was the same thing that happened to Andrew Gillum 2 years ago. Everyone thought he was going to win the state. He was a popular mayor from Tallahassee, and he lost to Ron DeSantis. Speaking of Governor DeSantis, let's go to his county, Volusia County. This is a Trump barometer.
Ouais, la Virginie, ça a l'air d'être un gunner, man.
That's exactly where he was 4 years ago. Another Trump barometer state, Fort Myers, Lee County. You look where he was 4 years ago, 58. He's at 59. So just do the math, George. He's winning where he won before, and he did better in
Mais l'écart se creuse en Ohio. Ça a l'air de se maintenir en... Stadia boy.
I think probably the president's done what Tom just said, a really good job with the Cuban community, the Venezuelan community, Latin America as a whole, and Central America. And there's
au moins, si tu parles pour une fois, ils s'insultent pas.
Ben oui, mais ils sont capables de se parler, man, tant mieux.
One point I would, if I could, to flip to North
Carolina. Pennsylvanie. 8% in. Ouais, ça c'est rien, les 8%. Les chiffres sont pas représentatifs.
62% reporting in the state. So this thing's going to tighten in a way. But I do think you see a trend well, across the country, as you kind of extrapolate data, that Biden is doing much better among both independent voters, white voters as a whole, and clearly suburban and senior voters. But not doing as
Virginie,
well
man.
in the
Check ça.
African American vote.
260 000 d'avance.
Now, he seemed to have resistance, particularly among young African American black men, all through this campaign.
You know, I think to start out, there wasn't a real strategy, right? That was the challenge. He couldn't quite confront, and we talked about this a lot on the program. He couldn't confront his past with the crime bill. You know, Donald Trump was taking credit for criminal justice reform in certain places, particularly in Florida.
Certain. Bonne affaire remplacer tes vidéos par mon stream. Colique. Yo, tu peux même interagir, tu peux voir ton nom qui apparaît, tu peux faire des just do it si tu veux, man.
Florida was unfortunately not one of them. We should see those numbers be quite significant in places like Georgia, where there was a specific effort for black men in that state. So hopefully they will show up. But I think that was the challenge: his failure to really failure to confront his past on criminal justice reform. You know, there was also some conversation about Kamala Harris's.
La gosse à Pennsylvanie, j'ai hâte de voir comment ça va. Mais c'est surtout qu'Ohio, si ça se maintient, c'est big. Là, c'est encore 50% des votes.
And hearing about. In Florida, from Republican leaders, I'm hearing there's just no place for Joe Biden to make up 220,000 votes, and then eventually we'll wind up calling Florida for Trump. Second, in North Carolina, the Trump campaign is very encouraged by the early vote numbers that they've seen, and they think, based on what happened today at the polls, and it's still happening, that they're going to be able to make it up and win narrowly in North Carolina. And lastly, in Pennsylvania, and we're seeing this all over, in Philadelphia, there has been a real underperformance by African-American voters in returning their mail-in ballots. They've been seeing this for about 10 days. They were hoping it would come and close tonight. They haven't seen that closure.
Fait que la Pennsylvanie va pas virer.
Double-digit underperformance of African-American voters in the city of Cleveland. If those trends continue, all of those trends are very helpful to Donald Trump.
Byron Pitts, what do you make of that?
Là, ils sont à 5%.
Ouais, non, mais c'est des stats de retour de ballot.
Consider this, George, that North Carolina has the 7th largest black population in the country. In fact, there are more HBCU, historically black college university students in the state of North Carolina. So this is a state with an established black middle class in every major city in this state.
Oh man, ça veut dire qu'il faudrait un deuxième, mais là, l'Ohio suffit plus, man. Normalement, juste l'Ohio aurait été bon si la Virginie virait pas, mais là, la Virginie, man, like, gone. Yo, la Virginie, like, gone, man.
75% of the black vote came out for Barack Obama. For Hillary Clinton, it dropped down to 64%. And so it's always been curious concerning what would black turnout be for Joe Biden.
Pourquoi qu'elle est encore en bleu sur le truc d'Associated Press?
Ouais, non, va voir les stats. Clique dessus, puis ça va dire genre qu'il est en retard de 17%. Puis il donne quand même gagnant. Tu vois, ça n'a pas rapport, là.
Make no mistake, the vast majority of black voters in North Carolina are not fans of President Trump. So in 2008, we saw the power of hope and pride. And now we're seeing if anger and frustration would be enough to energize black voters.
Si finalement la Virginie ne tourne pas, l'Ohio serait suffisante. Si tu perds pas le Nevada, genre. Le Nevada, je l'ai pas tant checké en plus avant. Le Nevada, c'était pas clair, man. C'est pas clair, le Nevada.
Well, I think a couple of things are happening. One is that President Trump is clearly diversifying the Republican Party. It's hard to argue with that tonight.
Même le Texas.
Miami-Dade County.
Ouais, Texas, c'est gone, là.
If it pans out among black men, it could be that there's a gender divide.
Il y a 100 000 de plus pour Biden, puis ils sont à 47%.
With black men more comfortable with President Trump's persona.
Y avait-tu le droit de voter d'avance? Je veux dire, est-ce que les votes par anticipation avaient le droit d'être comptés d'avance au Texas? Il y a des États que oui, il y a des États que non, genre.
Aucune idée.
Ouais, mais c'est ça, moi non plus.
Look, the Republican Party 8
non,
years
Nevada,
ago, after they lost
correct,
to Barack Obama, had a big heart-to-heart talk with itself and said we have to go and find voters in diverse communities. Donald Trump seems to have done that, and at least so far, that is one of the headlines of tonight.
We will be keeping an eye on it. Sarah Fagan?
Donald Trump competed for this vote in a way that no Republican has ever done.
On dirait du code qui roule en arrière d'elle.
Republican convention, every night in prime time, there were African-American voices on criminal
quand elle a fait,
justice
c'est du
reform,
code,
on
ça.
the economy.
Oh, ouais, non, je suis d'accord avec toi. Je comprends pas c'est quoi, là. Ça doit être genre les Russes ou quelque chose comme ça.
Is maybe not getting a lot of black votes, but maybe people haven't turned out tonight, and that in some way has had an impact.
Oh, man.
Bruce, what are you hearing from the Biden campaign about this phenomenon right now? Do they believe it?
It's a good question. You know, tonight they are being tight-lipped on that, of course, but it is interesting when you look at the trajectory of this campaign. Joe Biden is often accused of taking the black vote for granted. A lot of attention was paid, especially several months ago at the beginning of this pandemic. Biden on Charlemagne the God, his radio show, saying to black voters that if they don't vote for him, quote, you ain't black. That, of course, did not sit well with many in the black community, despite the fact that, of course, it was black voters, especially female black voters, that helped in many ways rescue Joe Biden's candidacy, helped deliver him
Mais ouais, je sais. 62% in, puis mène par un 3%, là. Genre 230 000 au Texas, fuck off, là.
Joe Biden, you know, what else besides saying, you know, you ain't black if you don't vote for me, are you going to do for the black community? Joe Biden gave him a very lengthy answer about his economic policies and how he plans to try and bridge some of the gaps that we see in this country. But I talked with Cedric after that, and he said that while, yes, he would be voting for Joe Biden, that it was going to be begrudgingly because he simply felt that Joe Biden was just the lesser of two evils. That's not exactly the kind of enthusiasm that may necessarily drive a lot of black voters, especially young black voters, to the polls. And George, I can tell you, I also spent a fair amount of time this summer out in the protests in the wake of the murder of George Floyd.
Parce que le Kansas, il donne 40 000 d'avance à Biden. Non, non, ça se peut pas.
Well, it has been a real juxtaposition from this White House over the last 4 years, George.
Ben, je sais pas, man. C'était pas d'un rabat de ben du monde, là. Mais ils mènent par 10% avec juste avec le tiers du vote. Mais tu sais, c'est quand même 6 électorales de plus. 5. Oh my God.
Encore juste à 35%.
Ouais.
At a rally
oh my God.
at an event
Si...
down in Florida. You know, the list goes on and on.
Oh my God. Si la Virginie passe républicain, puis que Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin passe démocrate, puis que le Kansas passe démocrate, on tombe even 269 à 269, puis c'est le Congrès qui décide. Wow. Si c'est ça qui arrive, il y a 10%. Ouais,
le Congrès s'enligne pour quelle couleur?
Live, c'est parce qu'il nous manque toutes les... c'est 38 à 55, mais il manque tout l'Ouest, encore pas mal. Qui en ont beaucoup, là, vu qu'ils sont très populaires.
It's coming up on 8:47 here in the East Coast. Right now, Donald Trump has won 5 states, 42 electoral votes. Joe Biden, 6 states and 44 electoral votes. We'll be right back.
Be right back. Adjoint NBC donne 51-49. Small recap. Ben, small recap, man, OK. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Il y a un enjeu au niveau de la Virginie qui est en train de fuir de démocrate à républicain. Il y a un gap de maintenant quasiment 300 000 qui est en train de se faire entre eux, puis avec 35% du vote de rentrée. Fait que je sais pas, tu sais, est-ce que l'Associated Press donne encore la Virginie aux démocrates, Vince, même s'ils sont genre 300 000 en retard?
Ouais, ils sont encore en bleu, mais ouais, ils sont encore 300 000
OK, ben en tout cas, il y a le cas de la Virginie qui est un peu fucked up. Il y a une avance quand même qui se maintient puis qui continue de s'agrandir en Ohio pour Biden. Fait que ça, c'est important de gagner, là, en plus du Michigan et du Wisconsin. Il y a la Caroline du Nord où est-ce que Biden est d'avance, mais qu'apparemment, les républicains pensent être capables de dépasser à la toute fin, avec la fin du vote du jour, je pense, quelque chose du genre. Fait que ça va être très très chaud à ce niveau-là de la Caroline du Nord. Puis à date, la Floride, ça a l'air d'être un gunner pour vrai. Il manque 200 000 votes sur 5 millions. C'est 5,3 millions à 5,1 millions Trump versus Biden. Fait que Biden est en retard de 200 000 votes en Floride. Puis le monde, ils ont pas l'air d'être capables de voir qu'ils sont pas capables d'aller chercher ces 200 000-là. Fait que la Floride, ça va être un gunner. La Georgie, la Georgie, c'est gun. Même affaire, la Georgie, ça va aller à Trump. Qu'est-ce qu'il y a?
C'est plus rendu 300 000 de différence.
Ah ouais, c'est quasiment rendu 300 000 en Floride. Fait que ouais, c'est dead. Fait qu'après ça, dans le fond, la place pour faire des gains, faut pas que la Virginie parte. Parce que si la Virginie flippe pas, juste être capable de gagner l'Ohio, c'est suffisant pour Biden pour gagner.
On ABC. Susan Powell was a young, beautiful mother. She just one night vanished. Where is Susan? July 29th.
Ohio est quand même très bien parti.
Ohio est vraiment. Puis l'écart se creuse là. Ça vient de passer à genre 11%, puis c'était à 9-10. Puis on est rendu à 50% in, puis l'écart se creuse tranquillement en Ohio. Fait que, genre, si la Virginie fait pas chier, c'est bon pour Biden. Si la Virginie fait chier, c'est pas bon pour Biden. Faudrait qu'elle cherche ailleurs. Si elle est capable d'aller chercher le Kansas, qui est comme impossible. Genre, pourquoi je peux pas croire que le Kansas vire, mais si le Kansas vire, que l'Ohio vire, puis que la Virginie vire, ça fait une égalité à 269 partout. C'est genre, ça serait cave, là, comment ça... ça serait fou, puis là, faudrait attendre les résultats du Congrès, puis c'est le Congrès qui déciderait, genre. Faudrait qu'ils votent entre eux, genre, qui décide. Qui gagne. La Pennsylvanie, à date, c'est 65 à 35, mais avec juste 10% in. Fait qu'il y a une avance de genre... un peu plus que 200 000 votes pour Biden en Pennsylvanie. Mais c'est chaud, là. Ça, c'est la... Ouais, le nombre de votes. Ouais.
Kansas, c'est pas mal parti pour Biden.
Ouais, c'est calme. Ah oui, puis by the way, il y a le Texas aussi, à 62% in, que Biden gagne 50,6 à 48. Je pense que c'est les early votes, là.
Donald Trump, again, breaking the conventional wisdom. We only have about 31% of that early vote in reporting, but he's up nearly 10 points in the early vote. That's good news for Donald Trump. So as we take a look at the map, you see a lot of these red counties. We're going to take a close look, George, throughout the night right here. This is Georgia's black belt. You know, the black belt cuts through several southern states. It's an area of high concentration of African-American counties, but they really haven't had turnout since President Barack Obama ran for president so many years ago. There's a lot of red counties in there. That's not great news for Joe Biden at this hour. We're keeping a close eye on places like Cobb. This is the greater Atlanta metro region. Joe Biden at 63% right now. He's really overperforming from where Hillary Clinton was. This is where Democrats need to win if they want to win the state of Georgia. I said this earlier. I'll say it again. It's so important. 50% of the vote is going to come from this area.
En bordure, il y a quand même du rouge. Je sais pas ce qui va se passer avec la Géorgie, mais je pense que c'est gun. Ah, il y a quand même juste 25%. Là. Ah, ok, c'est surprenant, là, mais il y a juste 25%. Oh,
Relativement serré.
Ouais, finalement, ouais.
Georgia. Yeah, so you remember earlier, George, I told you things had gone smoothly here. Well, about that. Well, it turns out there was actually a pipe that burst at State Farm Arena, which caused a delay in processing ballots. Let me explain what that means. State Farm Arena is where the Atlanta Hawks play ball, smack dab in the middle of downtown Atlanta, which is in Fulton County. So you have the largest polling station, which is also in the largest county in this state, had an issue this morning with a pipe burst, a water leak essentially. So there was a delay in processing ballots there, so they could clean up the area. Now, I talked to Fulton County. Their officials say this caused about a 2-hour delay. Talked to the Secretary of State's office. They say it was about 4 hours. So we could see a delay in getting some of those numbers of those ballots. It's important to note none of the ballots were damaged or destroyed. That is not what we're talking about.
C'était à côté le problème. Ah, tu vois, en Floride, les cas se creusent. Hein? 5 426 à 5 165 en Floride.
This process of getting those things ready to go and then tabulated. So we don't know how long that could take. Now, of course,
on les regarde pas en même place.
Moi, pour vrai, hein? Qu'est-ce que tu dis?
On les regarde pas en même place, mais j'ai à peu près la même chose.
Qu'est-ce que tu veux dire?
Moi, en Floride, j'ai 459 sur 162.
Où ça?
En Floride, sur...
Ah ouais, mais ça revient quasiment au même. Là. Ça revient au même. Les cas se creusent. Là. Hey, Hey, Rochon, Rochon, t'es avant, man. Ouais, ce qu'il vient de raconter, ce qui se passe à Atlanta, là, c'est. Ben, une pipe qui explose dans l'arrêt, genre dans le stade des Falcons. What the fuck, yo? Mais ça ralentit juste le process. 13% in. Hey, tu vois comme en Pennsylvanie, c'était 63-65%, là, puis il y a genre 8% des votes in, puis là, il a monté à 68. Fait que rapidement, avec un peu plus de ballot, ouais, un leak. Ouais, un burst, genre. Ouais, Ohio, ça se maintient. Ah, regarde, toi, il me semble que l'écart s'est rétréci en Ohio un peu, là. C'est revenu à 10, ça avait monté à 11%, puis là, c'est revenu à peu près à 10% de différence. La Virginie me fait chier, man. La Virginie continue de me faire chier. Là, c'est un peu moins de 300 000 de différence. Là. Mais elle me fait chier, la Virginie.
L'Indiana vient juste de switcher en rouge foncé.
Qui ça?
L'Indiana.
Ah, mais c'était correct, ça.
Ouais, non, je sais que ça reste quelque chose qui était dessus, mais 85-72 pour...
Ah, ouais.
Essaye de garder un update sur grand directeur.
Okay, Heidi Heitkamp, what do you make of what you're seeing in Ohio?
Well, I think it's great news for Joe Biden because it's
il a besoin de l'Ohio big time la soirée. Là. Surtout avec la Virginie qui... Genre, on dirait que j'en parle trop, on dirait que je focus sur ça, mais je suis pas content.
Mais ça bouge pas depuis tantôt, la Virginie, par exemple.
Ça bouge, mais à peine, yo. À peine, mais ça bouge. Ouais, ouais, ça bouge. C'est pas le fun. C'est pas le fun à voir.
We're tracking all the results with polls set to close in 14
On dirait que j'ai peur d'aller sur Twitter.
including the pivotal battleground states of Michigan, Wisconsin,
What's happening on really
Texas on ABC.
Welcome to Disney Plus. Are you ready? Drop in and explore. The action, the adventure, and the originals. There's no limit to what
Écoute la course en fin de semaine?
Yes, sir, man.
Retour de Ericsson.
So come on.
Le gros Jean l'an passé, yo.
Ouais.
Yo, j'ai vu ça, j'ai fait genre, what the fuck, le con?
On Disney Plus.
Is our country can collapse from within.
You see the white power movement on the march. Klansmen and neo-Nazis, skinheads. It's
À quel point, genre, vous allez capoter, je suis capable d'avoir Mia Malkova qui vient dire bonjour sur le chat sur le Twitch.
We just need to start talking about race. Homegrown hate, the war
among
us.
This is a real wake-up call.
Streaming now.
Ça serait pas payé.
Wednesday night, get ready for
a con so big, so outrageous, never seen anything like it before.
Meet the Prince.
T'es-tu parlé de ma nouvelle théorie du complot préférée?
Oh yo, garde-toi.
Living large.
T'es pas prêt?
Non, je suis pas prêt.
Tu sais, Albon, il rush beaucoup, là, hein?
Ouais.
Puis Gasly est vraiment bon.
Ils vont pas, non, ils switcheront pas, là.
Non. C'est pas, ils vont pas switcher, c'est qu'ils ont déjà switché, mais ils l'ont pas dit à personne. La AlphaTauri, c'est pas vraiment une AlphaTauri.
Oh my god! Ça serait débile, man! Mais sais-tu que ce qui arrive, c'est que, genre, perso, Gasly, ils vont pas le promote à Red Bull. Je t'explique pourquoi. Quand les nouvelles règles en 2022 vont rentrer, AlphaTauri risque d'être beaucoup plus compétitive. Fait qu'en gardant Gasly là, ça devient leur premier driver avec les nouvelles règles, genre.
Ah non, c'est clair, il bougera pas de là.
Ah,
c'est certain.
Yeah.
J'ai bien hâte de voir c'est qui va prendre la place d'Albon, parce qu'Albon non plus restera pas là.
Perez sûrement, man. Perez ou Hulk. Helmut Marko avait déjà genre contacté Hülkenberg pour le Grand Prix où est-ce que Stroll a pris la COVID.
Ah ouais?
Ouais, puis finalement, ça s'est arrangé parce que Albon avait un test comme pas concluant. Finalement, Albon était correct, puis finalement, Stroll, il est parti. Fait que c'est pour ça qu'il était comme déjà prêt, puis tout. C'est Red Bull qui l'avait contacté en premier. Là.
En même temps, je me dis qu'il y a tellement de... Il y a tellement de jeunes dans la filière de Red Bull.
Ouais. Hey, si vous voulez rien, là, tu sais le fameux Alcatel Idol 3, là, que j'utilise pour mon Stream Deck. Oh shit. Que j'utilise pour mon Stream Deck, là. Ben yo, j'ai train de router pour enlever tout le crapware là, que Alcatel avait mis dedans pis tout, pis ces affaires-là. Pis là, j'ai mis Lineage OS, genre. Fait que Cyanogen Mod. Pis yo, le son il est encore sick maintenant. Il est pas bon, mais il est quand même très serviceable, là. Même en 2020.
Quand même pas pire.
C'est tout. Octa-core, man.
Octa-core.
Octa-core. Gang, gang. Dun, 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 dun. We are looking really good all over the country. Oh, man. Bon, qu'est-ce qui se passe en Caroline du Nord? Hey, l'écart était de combien en Caroline du Nord? Là, c'est genre 200 000. Là. Il me semble que l'écart se rétrécit en Caroline du Nord. Ah, man, je sais pas. C'est juste... Souviens-toi, 200 000 Caroline du Nord. Ah, Georgie, c'est Gunner. Floride, l'écart est trop creux. Aussi, c'est gone. Texas. Yo, le Texas, c'est quasiment à égalité, man. C'est rendu à égalité, genre à... 3 752 à 3 669. Yo, c'est close. Ok. Mais oui, le Texas n'aurait pas viré. Là. L'Ohio, l'écart est rendu à 9% d'eau. Fait que ça se rétrécit. Il y a encore à peu près 300 000. Là. Mais l'écart se rétrécit en Ohio. Ouais, faut checker Ohio, Caroline du Nord, Virginie. S'il y en a 2 sur 3 qui restent bleus, ça va. Comment ça t'as manqué de batterie? C'est quoi tu nous écoutais, yo? C'est quoi le dernier bout que t'as pogné, man? Oh.
ABC News special.
Ooh.
It all comes down to this. The choices couldn't be more different.
We're never going to lock down again. We locked
Never.
down. We understood the disease, and now we're open
Ok, veux-tu la nouvelle la plus inutile que je viens d'avoir la journée, genre? Veux-tu rire de la nouvelle la plus inutile que je viens d'avoir la journée?
Ouais, quoi? Oui, je veux rire de la nouvelle que t'as vue qui est pas jouée.
Valérie Plante endosse Joe Biden. Comme on dirait, là. Qu'est-ce que tu veux que ça nous crée, ça nous, genre à eux, là, que Valérie Plante endosse Joe Biden, yo? Merci TFA Nouvelle de nous garder au courant des enjeux là, de société qu'on fait face. Ça sert à rien. Ah yo, du Power, j'ai écrit à Mia Malkova sur Twitter là, pour qu'elle vienne dire bonjour au stream. Là. Man, si ça se passe, là, vous devriez me remercier. Ah, le Akon, j'imagine, c'est la Valérie Plante que tu parles. Puis, Evans, j'ai pas eu de retour de la NASA non plus. La NASA m'a pas répondu sur comment ça fonctionnait les. Je me souviens plus quoi. Oh, je pense. Ouais, qu'est-ce qui se passe au Michigan? Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Look,
okay, the Red Mirage, okay.
Michigan's going to count its votes slowly. It's going to count in-person, day of voting earlier. You're going to see more of that early vote counted later, which is going to be good for the.
C'est pas c'est qui Mia Malkova, man? Tu vas voir sur l'autre hub.
And of course, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, who has seen protests over lockdowns, and of course, Donald Trump, President Trump, went in there and took that on head.
Pas grand-chose des fois.
Ah, yo, je suis pareil. Yo. Des fois, genre, je pars à Ray, Karen, elle me dit qu'est-ce qui se passe, puis là, je dis, puis elle dit juste ça. Malheureusement, oui.
On l'a souvent dit, il y a 2 ans,
Chris, oui, hein. Avarouette.
Juste un petit update, 119,92 pour Biden.
Où ça?
Les grands électeurs sur Google.
Associated Press.
And they're very excited about their ground game here. And yet, Joe Biden is trying desperately to seal the cracks in the blue wall. And he did that
il en donne beaucoup d'avance, eux autres.
spending President Trump dramatically here.
92 pour Trump, c'est lesquels qui ont donné?
52 million by Joe Biden. And not only that, Kamala Harris has been energizing the
imagine, c'est la Virginie.
here in Detroit, as well as his not-so-secret weapon, President Obama, campaigned with Joe Biden over the weekend to energize
Ça expliquerait un bon gap, en tout cas.
But what we're seeing
Ben non, parce qu'ils ont encore la Virginie en bleu.
Oui, les caves. Yo, le site de AP News est... OK. Je suis même pas capable d'aller sur le site de Associated Press. Le 300 000 se maintient en Virginie, mais ça me fait chier. J'en peur. Trump est full d'avance, mais c'est ça qu'il disait, c'est le mirage rouge.
That woman from Michigan, and when I interviewed her, she said every time President Trump called her names, online hate and threats against
Pennsylvanie, man, 300... Quasiment 350 000. Oh, il y a presque pas de vote, là, c'est quoi? 15% in. OK.
President Trump in the suburbs, 56 to 42. But when you get a gender gap and you look at women, that number is the reverse, 55 to 44, more than a 10-point advantage for suburban women. And surely there are suburban women who still support President Trump and his economic policies. But when I went to the polls today, time and time again, the women I spoke to said they are tired of the fighting. They are tired
OK, puis là, tu vois la machine québécoise embarque. Journal de Québec. La mairesse Valérie Plante endosse Joe Biden. Journal de Montréal. Présidentielle 2020. La mairesse Valérie Plante endosse Joe Biden. Yo.
Pas toute la même personne qui gère ça, anyway, hein.
Je suis sûr que oui, man.
C'est sarcastique.
OK. Genre, Journal de Montréal, Journal de Québec, c'est genre le même journal. Puis il y a 3 articles qui changent. Pour parler de Valérie Plante versus pour parler de Régis Labombe. That's it. Tout le reste, c'est pareil.
Longtime Republican state, but Joe Biden is putting up a fight there in the state of Arizona. Which Johnson is there.
Arizona. Oh oui, man. Mais moi, je suis sûr que... Je sais pas, man. Je sais pas comment ça va réagir. Si... En fait, s'il y a une victoire claire ce soir... La seule victoire claire qu'on pourrait avoir ce soir, c'est si Biden sort à soir, je vois. Et à ce moment-là, je pense qu'il y aurait plus de calme. I guess. Que si, genre, c'est chaud à soir, puis que Trump se proclame gagnant avant qu'il ait réellement fini de tout compter au Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvanie et Caroline du Nord, à ce moment-là, là, c'est quoi la merde s'il essaie de se proclamer gagnant, man.
Il y a presque rien au Nebraska, mais Biden est en avance, pareil.
Je vois rien au Nebraska. Attends, je vois le Kansas. Ouais, Kansas. Il y a 30 000 Biden a 30 000 points d'avance, 30 000 votes d'avance, avec 37% in au Kansas. C'est con.
Ouais, moi, je le vois à 20 avec 20 d'avance avec 40%.
20? Et ça veut dire que ça close in. Ben, c'est sûr, genre, personne ne voyait le Kansas virer bleu, là. C'est genre impossible.
Okay, Whit Johnson, thanks very much for getting more results. Now we can project that Joe Biden is going to win the state of Connecticut. No surprise there, of course, Joe Biden will win the state of Connecticut. You see him filling in the blue up there in the northeast right now. But more polls are closing, including in the state.
Yo, ça dit que la Pennsylvanie devient tellement chaude. Il y a encore 350 000 d'avance. Oh man, Wall Street Bets. Yo, Wall Street Bets, ils sont déjà genre Commandant de capoter. Ils ont déjà tout le monde un folder, genre Trump ou Biden. Ils sont prêts pour les memes.
So Minnesota really has become a sort of second-tier battleground state. Trump losing Minnesota by just 45,000 votes last time. That's less than 2% of the votes. So both campaigns have been spending a lot of time
Texas. Ah, check le Texas, c'est rendu à 50 000 de différence. Seulement 50 000 au Texas. Mais ça, le Texas, ça va virer de plus en plus rouge, je pense. Je pense qu'il y avait eu le temps de compter les early ballots d'avance.
J'imagine qu'il y a du monde qui ont dû y aller quand même, qui sont allés voter et qui ont voté pour Biden pareil.
Oui, mais ouais. Même à ça. Genre, les polls donnaient vraiment pas les démocrates si proches que ça. C'était likely républicain, puis même les tendances étaient ça. Même si tu regardes pas les chiffres, tu regardes la tendance. Ouais. Virginie Goss, man. Le pourcentage de ballots ouverts, 38. Encore 300 000 de différence. Mais ça fait 58 à 40 %. Là. Genre, je comprends pas pourquoi le monde ne check pas ce qui se passe en Virginie plus que ça. Genre, Fox News doit capoter sa Virginie. Ils disent, ah, on gagne la Virginie, on gagne la présidence.
Ouais, mais Fox News font rien, fait que...
Ils font sûrement de quoi à TV, il faut que tu payes. Ils font juste pas le mettre gratis sur YouTube. D'un côté du sud,
We've talked to a lot of people, George, who say racial equality, racial justice, those are the most important things that are motivating them when they head to the polls, when they cast their ballots today.
Okay,
George?
Alex, thanks very much. Let's stay in the Midwest now. Let's take a look at Wisconsin. 10 electoral votes at play. Of course, Donald Trump won there by 22,000 votes last time around. Deborah Roberts is there in Wisconsin. We saw those both. We've seen this COVID surge in Wisconsin over the last several weeks. Also, protests in Kenosha over the summer where the president hit hard on that law and order theme.
That's exactly right, George. So it's been sort of a complicated mix here in Wisconsin. But I have to tell you, if there's a state that's going to cause a little bit of heartburn tonight, it will be Wisconsin. And that is because of absentee and mail-in votes. Usually about 6% of the votes would actually be handled that way. This time about 60% of the votes, George, were done early, absentee, mail-in. And that means about 2 million votes now have to be handled. And unlike Georgia, which got a chance to prep some of those votes a little bit early, Wisconsin had to wait until this morning, 7 a.m. So they just got started processing all of those votes this morning. The Election Commission folks tell us it's probably going to be a late evening, but that does not mean that there are going to be problems. They are going to be working very hard. And as you said, the big problem is COVID. I mean, this state is getting slammed by the coronavirus. Almost 6,000 new cases, 52 deaths today.
Ouais, ça décolle ça, Wisconsin.
It is an issue that has been hovering over this state.
Bon.
So for that reason, a lot of
Je les
people
espère,
are
on n'a
just
pas de signe
sending
de
their votes
Maikova
in. We
qui
saw a
vient sur
woman
le
dropping
stream.
her ballot off this afternoon. The polls just closed, so they're going to be processing
Still
those
hoping for
votes
her.
overnight. And in Milwaukee, for instance, there are poll watchers there. Each party got 15 people standing around watching
Présence
all
de
of those
verre.
votes as
Les
they
cousins
come in.
Miss Vicky se
But
rappelait.
they so far so good.
What
Weather
the...
has been good.
Qu'est-ce qui se
2 weeks
passe avec
ago,
les
there was
Miss
snow. Today
Vickies?
there was sunshine.
Ok,
So
tout le
at
monde,
the
message
very least,
d'intérêt
things seem to
public,
be
là, ça
moving
passe avant
fairly
les élections.
smoothly
Là.
here in Wisconsin, but it may be a long night. George?
Okay, Deborah Roberts, thanks very much. We're just hearing now that
Je suis
we
une
can
blessure
project the
mineure
state of
aux
South
dents à cause de la
Dakota
présence de
for Donald
verre.
Trump again. Not a surprise right
Ok, fait
there.
que la
South Dakota
vitre,
will
là,
go,
de toute façon, tout le monde
Donald Trump
est qu'à
tonight.
savoir.
So seeing the red states are filling in red, the blue states are
Vraiment,
filling
qu'on
in
sent
blue.
pas
All
tous
the
les sacs qui ont été
battlegrounds
vendus
still in play.
dernièrement,
One of
seulement
the
quelques
biggest
lots
ones
de
right
production
now.
visés.
Ohio, the state of
Peuvent
Ohio,
consulter la liste des codes de
55%
fabrication
of
visés
the
sur le site.
vote in.
Ouais, on voit.
Tommy,
Ok, les saveurs. Original, sel marin, vinaigre, jalapeno, poivron, crème champagne, délice barbecue du sud. Ok, fait qu'en gros, c'est genre toutes les saveurs, là, on s'entend. Oh, attends, Ohio.
Ils cuisent des patates. Là, il y a quelqu'un qui a pété sa vitre dessus. Puis après, ils les ont mis dans un sac avec la petite poudre dessus pour que ça goûte.
On va aller à l'adresse suivante. Et voilà, food serving. 40 grammes. Ah, fait que c'est des petits chips. 200 grammes. Ok, non, c'est des gros chips aussi. Wow.
Do the math here, 40s, up 13% just in Delaware County.
Costco.
One thing I do want to note,
Retail.
whether it's a red or blue mirage, when we look at the early
Ok, fait que j'en quasiment tout, yo. Achète pas de Musique pendant un bout, man. Hey, what up, all the balling? Man, it's looking critical in a couple of states, especially on for Virginia, man.
Okay, Tom, thanks
Biden wasn't supposed to lose any existing states to have a chance, and then he's trailing behind by like 300,000 votes in Virginia, man. So he has to win 2 states between Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Arizona. Georgia and Florida seems to be goners. However, Georgia, since they don't have the votes from the Atlanta region, it may flip, but we don't know for sure now.
Frankly, for not having gone there more, the Trump
Of
team
course.
did not hold any rallies.
But Virginia,
Ohio,
on the
over
way to
2020
flipping
compared to holding
to the
5 in
Republicans is a big
Pennsylvania
problem.
just this past weekend alone. They had to cut ad
Yeah,
spending there in the final weeks.
I don't know
because of
what's
this
happening
cash
with
crunch
Virginia right
that
now.
They were, that they've been facing in the campaign, foregoing
It wasn't supposed to happen, and I think
ads.
nobody saw it in the polls.
It's a
Like,
minor
yeah,
incident,
Virginia
really, in the grand
was
scheme of the things we cover here in this White
yeah.
House, but worth pointing out on a night like tonight.
Likely voting for
just a few months ago, where
polling
President
map,
Trump
Virginia,
called for
yeah,
a
likely
ban on
almost safe.
Goodyear,
It
the
was
brand
almost safe for the
Goodyear,
Democrats
after,
out there.
the company, he
So
accused the
maybe there's
company of
something
banning
with the
its
early
employees
ballots
from
or
wearing his MAGA
not being
gear.
counted
Goodyear
first.
is based in Akron, Ohio,
So
George.
yeah, you
As
tell me
is
what's
LeBron
happening.
James, and he's been quite active
I
in this
think the
campaign
counter
as well.
a
Mary
problem with
Bruce,
it.
I mean, we saw that Joe Biden at the last minute went
Okay.
from Pennsylvania, jumped into Ohio on the final day, hoping to make a play for this state.
Yeah, they believed that what they were seeing on the ground showed that this state was in play, that it was increasingly competitive, and that appears to be.
And I don't know if do you have
so far tonight? Biden's team is encouraged
the chip
very much so by
the
what
chips
they are
Miss
seeing coming
Vicky's
out so far.
over there in the
And
U.S.
I want to hit on a point that Tom was making about suburban women, because in these preliminary exit data, suburban women backed Trump by 9 points in 2016.
Watch out, because here in Canada we have glass in them.
Narrowly backing Biden. That bodes well for Biden's team, not just in
watch out.
states like Ohio, but
it's
also
only
as
for
you look
Canada,
to those
so
other critical Midwestern
you should
states
be
like
fine.
Michigan and Wisconsin, possibly even in Pennsylvania, as they try to rebuild that blue wall that Donald Trump smashed
Forget the redneck
through
Virginia in
4
the
years
poll.
ago. And it also speaks, George,
What do you
to
mean,
the
Jimmy?
power of women voters who tonight could determine the outcome of this election. They were critical to delivering Donald Trump the White House. Women voters tonight could be critical to taking it back.
Martha Redditz, you
Yeah,
spoke
and
to a lot
Florida
of
is a
them on the
goner,
road
man.
this summer.
The lead extended to 300,000
Right now that there are
votes.
a group of women I spoke to around those counties, around Columbus, Ohio, that Tom Yamas was talking about, who are very happy tonight. A group of women, several of them were Republicans, and they switched to Joe Biden. It was right on that character issue once again. Character.
Yeah, but it's not
chaos.
enough.
Juju Chang talked about that as well.
If only
That's what
Ohio
those women
flips
were
to the
concentrating
Democrats,
on. And let me
with
channel,
Virginia
the
flipping
late
to the
Cookie
Republicans,
Roberts here for a minute, George. This
it
is
accomplishes
the
nothing.
centennial of the 19th Amendment. Women have only had the vote in this country
Whoa.
for 100 years, and as Mary said, they may determine that tonight. But you also
Okay, I'm
want to
going to
listen to
switch
what
up to
Donald
full
Trump has
Borat
been
now.
saying to
Hi,
women,
my name is
especially
Borat.
suburban women, which doesn't land
My name
very
is-
well
my name
with
is
many
Borat.
of them. I'm also getting your
Oh, I'm
husbands
terrible.
back to work. They want to get back to work.
Props
right?
to Sacha
You
Baron
know
Cohen.
how many women are in the workforce in 2019? 76 million women aged 16 and over
J'ai
were
écouté le
employed.
premier cette semaine.
Ouais, le Borat, ouais. T'as-tu écouté le 2?
David Muir, what do the exits
Non,
say about
car je l'ai
Ohio
écouté le
right
premier
now?
avant d'écouter le deuxième.
Ah ouais, moi je m'en suis foutu. Le 2 est fucking drôle, man. Borat 2 est...
down the
ouais,
mail-in
crazy.
vote across this country in the weeks preceding the election, that perhaps this is what we're seeing unfolding in Ohio tonight, because the exit polling tells a different story. A lot of the issues that Joe Biden sort of laid out, he said, we got to take care of the virus first, the economy will come with it second. The Ohio exit polls show that they believe fix the economy, open the country first before the coronavirus. They prefer Trump to Biden handling the economy. They prefer Trump to Biden handling the pandemic. So given what we're seeing in the exit polls, and again, one of the other trends that we're also seeing is Donald Trump is not underwater with approval in Ohio. It's one of his strongest showings tonight in the preliminary exit polls so far.
But
so
why are they not talking about Virginia?
Portends a good night for President Trump in Ohio. I do wonder if the get out the vote and the early voting campaign,
but
Biden camp,
Virginia never voted for him.
Actually helping there significantly tonight.
I think in the previous elections.
Ohio 51-47 right
Okay,
now.
let me look it
Let's
up.
take a look
In
back at
2016,
your forecast and show everybody what
Virginia,
happens if Ohio
blue
goes
and
from red to blue, if Joe Biden
2012,
happens to
yeah.
win.
They
So
both
what
voted
happens
for
if Trump
Obama
wins
and
Florida,
Hillary,
Georgia,
so
North
I don't know
Carolina, which is
why
more
now it's
competitive race,
flipping.
but Biden counts
Yeah, you
by
see,
winning
it's still blue for
Ohio,
them.
Then that all
Why?
of a sudden undoes those positive results for Trump. You'll see the numbers come up here. Biden's going to, I think, wind up here north of 99%. Because if Trump loses Ohio, he's going to lose in all probability Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, which are
They're
bluer
still giving,
states,
and they're still giving the Pennsylvania.
It really does show the importance right now, because you came into the night showing Donald Trump with about a 10% chance. So even if you give him those 3 key states we've been looking at in the Southeast right now, Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida, you flip Ohio and it turns everything around.
Right. So he has to win both paths, right? He has to win the southern path and hold the states that he flipped from Clinton in 2016 in the north. If he only does one, then it'll be
This
close.
is so nerve-wracking. I don't. I'm not even living in the U.S. Oh, maybe it's the energy drink though. maybe it's just my heart just pumping too much blood and I'm shaking. Le combo gourou puis élection, c'est peut-être pas le best là. Mais tu sais, je pense quasiment rester up jusqu'à. Je pense que je vais streamer jusqu'à 11h minuit facile. Là. Genre. On en a pour quasiment un minimum 2 heures avec tout le monde. Là. Fait que. Yeah, still up for at least 2 hours, guys. Stay tuned. My PCs. Oh, guys, have you seen the new AMD announcements on both the CPU side and the GPU sides? The early benchmarks for the Ryzen 5000 are just crazy, like big time. I think the 5600X just hit the 6.2 gigahertz overclock on liquid nitrogen. Oh man, that's a big overclock there. I'm gonna stop this. And on the GPU side, they managed to beat the top of the line from Nvidia. It's equally crazy. Genre, je pensais pas qu'AMD était capable de match le top of the line de Nvidia, puis la 3080, man, ils abattent là, avec leur... je me souviens plus du nom. Je trouve ça juste fou. Là. Aïe, aïe, aïe. Yeah, you did good. Yeah. I remember in 2000... Yeah, when did you bought your first shares of AMD, man? That was from me. I should get a cut on that. No, I'm just joking. But it was just before the Ryzen launch that catapulted them up there. Yeah, Ryzen.
Yeah, but I think the best he bought was the weed one.
No, all of them crashed. Or yeah, he bought them at $9. That's just crazy, man. I think it's what is the AMD share right now? AMD share, it's 76 UX. What? You bought at 9 and it's up to 76 USD right now? Oh my dude, man, that's just crazy. Okay, so at $9, it was about 2016 to early 2017, something like that. Man. And if the early benchmarks from both new products from AMD on CPU and GPU are the real deal and they are not like cherry picked, it's gonna be huge for them, because yeah, they completely demolished Intel, and now if they even beat them completely on the gaming side, it's a big win. It was the only crown left for Intel. And they couldn't compete with Nvidia with the top of the line GPUs, but now if they can beat them there also, yo, what is happening? Lisa Su is the best CEO in the world. Oh, you did sell some, yeah, cool, okay. Yeah, it's normal, buy low, sell high. You just couldn't predict it's gonna almost become 10 times what was worth. Okay, you see House of Rep. Oh man. So North Carolina. Oh, okay, yeah, Lisa Bay. 100,000 lead in North Carolina right now. So yeah, they may be able to pass the Democrats, and now still the 3% gap with a bit more than 100,000 lead. Wow, almost 500,000 votes in Pennsylvania for Biden. Cool. Rhode Island, what? What is happening in Rhode Island? What is happening with Rhode Island, man? Biden doesn't. Well, they should not lose that. Oh my OMG! What is happening? Okay, so let's run my math. Ohio, not give them that. Keep Virginia. Okay, so they win. Lose Rhode Island. Okay, you can still win without Rhode Island. Okay, but barely. Yeah, he needs Pennsylvania. No, he doesn't. Okay, look at that. So this is the. Oh, I didn't put the sound on them. I'm just put back the sound. Okay, so look at that. So this is the 2016 map. Okay.
It looks boring, but all these people are working within the system to count the ballots. It's incredible.
So Wisconsin, Michigan are almost guaranteed to flip. So it's 258. Then Ohio flips 276. So he wins without Pennsylvania, but he has to retain Virginia though. But he can lose everything else, even Pennsylvania. He does that, and even if you lose Rhode Island, but it's 272. But he has to keep Virginia, because if Virginia flips, it's game over now. He needs Pennsylvania greatly, and maybe Georgia, because Georgia is not ruled out. Georgia with the Atlanta region and suburbs not being counted yet. It's gonna be huge. I think what Vincent, what did they say about, qu'est-ce qu'ils ont dit avec l'Atlanta? Genre c'était comme 50% de la population qui était là, ou c'était pas 50%, ou c'était juste comme un gros chiffre? Je m'en souviens plus. La région d'Atlanta en Georgie, c'était combien de pourcents de la population? Je m'en souviens plus qu'est-ce qu'ils disaient genre par rapport à ça.
Ouais, mais c'est ça, il me semble qu'il disait que c'était à peu près 50% de la population.
Ouais. Whoopi.
Wednesday on ABC.
ABC. Yeah. With Pennsylvania, the Democrats don't have any worries, but they have to win it. And we won't be having any results from Pennsylvania for the next 3 days, because that's what the Supreme Court ruled, that they wouldn't stop counting on today. They will keep counting the votes for 3 more days with the absentee ballots. Yeah, both parties got a lawyer up for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania 2020 is the new Florida from 2000. Let's hope not for the Democrats. That's gonna be sad if so. Yeah. Oh wow, less than 1 million votes separates them. And still we don't have California in, which is gonna swing that by so much. Okay, so North and South Dakota. Yeah. Okay, just look at that. Le Journal de Montréal a dit que les démocrates conservent la majorité à la Chambre des représentants. Fait que je sais pas d'où est-ce qu'ils pognent ça. House estimate at this hour. Ok, fait que le fait que ce soit 142 à 149, avec tous ceux qui vont venir de la Californie puis tout, ils risquent de... Ok, fait qu'à cette heure-là, s'ils ont juste ça de sortie, ça devrait les faire gagner la Chambre. Fait que s'il y a une égalité... Hein?
C'est la mairesse de Montréal qui leur ont dit.
Yo, c'est Madeleine Dean! Oh oui! Montreal Mayor. Ah, tu vois, il a gagné South Park. Colorado. Bon, ils peuvent bien dire ça, c'est sûr. Okay, I'm gonna take a restroom break, so I'll be back in 3 minutes. I'm gonna run some ads, so stay tuned. Don't worry, I'll be back. Hey, I'm back. Oh, bye, bonne nuit, Dan.
Ah, ciao Dan, j'avais pas vu.
Ouais, going to sleep, il s'en va, man. Bye bye.
C'est ça, t'es allé aux toilettes.
Ouais, qu'est-ce qui se passe? C'est pas correct?
Alors, je sais pas, tu reviens avec un Mr. Free.
Ouais. Oui, c'est quoi le problème? J'ai eu le temps.
George Stephanopoulos.
9:30 now in the East, and we can project 2 more states now for President Trump. Donald Trump will win the state of Alabama. 10% of the vote in.
Ok, si l'Alabama switchait à démocrate, je pense que c'est la fin du monde.
Republicans hoping to pick up a Senate seat there. Tommy Tuberville over Doug Jones. We don't have a projection on that yet, but we can say that Donald Trump will also win the state of North Dakota tonight. So he's picked up 2 more states there for the president.
Il n'y a pas d'enjeu dans ces
We see
États-là.
89 electoral votes for Joe Biden, 63 for Donald Trump. Trump right now. And right now, let's pull up the state of Virginia. Take a look at what we're seeing now in the state of Virginia. 41% of the expected vote.
Exactement,
right now, Tom Yamas, we're still seeing Donald Trump with a large lead, but only 41% of the expected vote in.
Yeah, George, it's a little strange. This is kind of interesting right now in Virginia. As you know, Democrats have been winning this state. Let's blow it up here. A lot of these red counties, the rural counties, as you go further west, you're going to get into coal country. But I want to blow this up here. This is the Democratic suburbs around D.C., this area right here. You have Alexandria, Fairfax, Arlington. These are areas where Democrats need to run up the score, and that's how they end up winning the state. Places like Fairfax, it's actually pretty close when you look at 4 years ago.
Wow.
Joe Biden's underperforming, and that's why I say the numbers are a little strange right now in Virginia. Prince William County, here's another thing. It's neck and neck. This was a county that Clinton clearly won 4 years ago. So it's sort of interesting when we look. I was trying to see if this was part of the early vote. Maybe Republicans came out to vote early there. Unfortunately, right now, all we have is that 57% of the vote is going to be early vote. We don't see who's on top right now, George.
Okay, Tom Yamas, thanks very much. Let's bring in Senator Tim Kaine. Tim, we were just hearing from Tom Yamas. So it shows we don't have a lot of the vote in. I take it you're feeling a bit more confident about your state?
He means Pennsylvania now.
The AP called Virginia at 736 because of the early vote totals are so strongly Democratic. About 70% of the 2016 total got cast early, and we know who those voters are. Just by way of comparison, the AP called Virginia at 11 o'clock in 2008, at 1 a.m. in 2012, and at 10:30 in 2016. So calling Virginia 3 hours earlier suggests very, very strong night in Virginia. Mark Warner's won big. We feel good about our congressional races. And because Virginia is now heavily suburban, we think that also probably bodes well for suburbs in places like North Carolina, Georgia, Philly, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and the upper Midwest. So we feel really good in Virginia.
Ça regarde très bien en Ohio, puis ça regarde correct en Caroline du Nord, puis Pennsylvanie, mais le problème se trouve en Virginie, man. Yeah, man. Here in Canada, it's called Mr. Freeze. I don't know if you have them, and you say ice pop, so yeah, probably that's what you have in the US. But here, they are Mr. Freeze. Yeah. I think I have them in my freezer since, yeah, for the last 2 years. I didn't buff them. Oh no, never mind. From last year. They are from last summer. Yeah, oh, by the way, in Aldi Bowling, if you didn't know, it snowed today in Montreal. So I think it's the first day where we had snow on the ground in the morning and still snowing a little bit. So that's why it calls me crazy.
So you're feeling good about the whole night, not just your state?
Yes, absolutely.
Senator Kaine, thanks very much for your time tonight. We can project now the state of South Carolina is going to go to Donald Trump. South Carolina, strong red state.
No
Donald Trump
there.
won 4 years ago. He's going to win it again tonight. Janae Norman is in South Carolina.
Yeah, hey George,
we expected
this. This is a state
non,
that
mais c'est normal, là, c'est South Carolina, c'était expected, là, que ça allait être just Canadian stuff, yeah, exactly, man.
An exit poll showing that the president approval rating is about 55%, but one thing that we're watching big here is, of course, the Senate race.
I still wonder who's that OnlyFans guy that followed in the beginning of the stream.
Few places is that more true than here in South Carolina. Think about this, Lindsey Graham, he is a household name, a 17-year
I know it.
in a Republican stronghold. He was
and all their hopes is in bringing back the raise
of his political life. He has been on TV
with a timeshare. Yeah. Okay. Check. Look up at the bottom of the stream. Okay, Zerg. In the section last follower, it's OnlyFans Lisandre NB. I don't remember. So it's almost like OnlyFans de Lisandre Nadeau, genre, I don't, or whatever. I don't know what it is. But it's someone that just followed it. So I find it pretty funny. Oh, and by the way, I also tweeted Mia Malkova to join the stream to say hi. I didn't have any reply, and like a month ago when I tweeted to the NASA for a very technical question, I didn't have any answer.
Cory Gardner
Let me check.
tied himself quite closely to Donald Trump. Actually tried to avoid comment when whenever there was anything controversial. Hickenlooper, the former governor, of course, briefly ran for president, recruited to run for this seat. No surprise that this is the first
incumbent.
They've got to pick up
so,
a few more.
The Republicans lost one senator. Oh.
Just adding to what John was saying, Hickenlooper, two-time mayor, two-time governor of the state, beloved. He ran for president briefly, then decided to run for Senate. This is not a surprise, but as Janae was saying, this is a key state that the Democrats wanted to pick up to turn from red to blue. And frankly, this is a purple state that is leaning blue, George.
So Ohio only 74,000 votes for Biden leading. So it's so small.
It was unlikely to
Ohio might not flip.
The polls had favored Hickenlooper all along, but this is
just like Virginia is not flipping, and this is concerning
Montana that could flip
North Carolina
to blue tonight. George,
Matt Cummins, thanks very much.
Less than 100,000 votes leading for Biden. Not good. And Biden's still hanging in there in Georgia with.
Yeah, it was amazing how all of a sudden Cory Gardner would become very hard to find
50,000 votes
of the Capitol in those moments.
behind, but without the region of Atlanta and its suburbs, so that might greatly help him.
There are several others that Democrats are keeping a close eye on, and I have to say, George, Republicans know that there is a very real risk that they could lose their Senate majority tonight. In addition to Colorado, which we now know the result in, they're keeping a very close eye on Arizona. They feel very strongly, Democrats do, that they have a chance to defeat Martha McSally in that race. They're also feeling optimistic about possibly Iowa, Maine, and North Carolina. The Senate race in Georgia is now looming as a very real possibility, with actually two races there tonight, and both Republican
so you see the Wisconsin, no, it's Michigan.
Democrats can see that they are likely to lose a seat in Alabama, Doug Jones's seat. That means if you go back to the math here, if they lose that seat, they would then need to pick up 4 seats. Democrats would if Joe Biden wins, because in that instance, Kamala Harris would then become the tiebreaker as vice president.
Not
if Donald
tomorrow,
Trump wins,
but
that means the Democrats would then have to pick
on Thursday, I'm gonna upload the VODs of tonight.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Let's take a deeper dive now at the state of
I
Pennsylvania.
don't know who would watch it back, but it's just so I upload it on YouTube and save it there forever. If Twitch just because Twitch only saves the VODs for I think 15 days for affiliates, and if my PC burns, even though I saved the stream on it, YouTube's gonna have my back.
Look, for instance, I'll give you Scranton right here, Lackawanna. Donald Trump is on top in Joe Biden's hometown.
Oh, that's bad.
He's overperforming there for Republicans. We go just south, Lucerne County. This is Wilkes-Barre. This is a swing county that Donald Trump won 4 years ago. Tonight, Joe Biden
so Pennsylvania is just all over the place.
Of the vote in. On the big cities where
Democrats
really
have
to
la
win,
Pennsylvanie.
Allegheny, Pittsburgh,
What's up?
You can see how high Joe Biden's there.
Did you know that Kamala Harris would be the first female US VP of Biden? Yeah, I know that.
Not only in Pittsburgh, but
yeah,
also in Philadelphia.
And I think if Biden wins tonight, in 4 years, she's gonna be the top of the ticket. That's for sure.
But there's only 9% of the vote in.
It's just prepping. This mandate, if Biden wins, is to prep Harris for
around Philadelphia where
the next term.
Run up the score. Look, Joe Biden's doing good, but again, George, it's so early. There's nothing really to pull.
Do we have anything from Erie County yet? And then I want to bring John in.
Yeah, Erie County, we have
next term or for the
Erie County.
Just by a
so close, still again.
But it was one of those swing counties that Obama won, and you can see right now.
Soit pour le prochain terme, la deuxième partie du terme présent.
Yeah, if Biden il finit pas le premier mandat, ouais.
You see Biden with nearly an 80-point lead. It's 16% of the vote in. What's really important here, though, George, is as I understand it, almost all of the vote that has been counted are people that voted today on Election Day.
Wow.
Pennsylvania didn't start counting
in those collar counties of Philadelphia.
Yes, this is day of voting, so they still have to count all of.
Oh my God, tu viens d'entendre ça, Vince?
They didn't start opening the envelopes until today. That's going to take a long time. It's actually going to take several days. That mail-in vote is expected to really.
Les résultats qu'on a live de la Pennsylvanie, c'est pas les résultats de mail-in vote, c'est les résultats d'aujourd'hui en personne. Fait que s'il y a une avance de Biden en Pennsylvanie à soir, ça va pas flipper au cours des 3 prochains jours. Là.
early
Ça veut dire que ça risque de, comme ils viennent de dire, ça risque de flip Deep Blue, là. Oh my God.
Some exit polls from Pennsylvania.
Wow, man.
Pennsylvania,
Big
when you
news.
compare it to Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania actually in the exit polls showed Donald Trump's worst performance so far tonight when it comes to his approval rating. Let's dive in here and see what the exit polls show us. Again, these
Non,
are
mais je préfère m'emballer, mais pas rien prendre pour acquis.
Carl was mentioning people who voted today and those who were voting early in person. As you can see, let's try to refresh that and see if the job performance comes up.
Wow.
52%
That information is like crucial.
And his performance, whether or not to contain the
Oh my God, it's closing in. I had a dream a few nights ago that Trump won, so I hope that's going to sign. Yeah, I hope so. I'm with you on that one. I don't want it either. But like, if you look to Ohio, it's down to 10,000 votes separating them. So Biden is losing his.
Behind. It's interesting. Let's look at independents.
C'est quoi son avance?
In Pennsylvania.
His lead, yeah. Losing his lead in Ohio.
Independents so far,
so I don't
as far
know.
as the exit polls are concerned, in Pennsylvania.
64%. Christie, neighboring state of yours in New Jersey, always going to be an uphill battle for the president, but essential.
Listen, vital, has to have it. And I do think, though, that the things that we're seeing still, I think this is very early, but there's underperformance in Philadelphia, even though those numbers don't indicate it. That's what I continue to hear. And so I think they're still feeling like they can turn out their day of vote in a way that's going to make it very close. No one's predicting a win there yet that I've heard, but no one's bemoaning a loss yet either.
Rahm Emanuel, the Biden campaign probably spent more time, energy, money, focus on Pennsylvania than any other state.
There's no doubt about it. And the vice president, did you remember in your town hall when a guy stood up?
Oh, OK, attends.
I know you're a sheriff.
Mais attends, si la Virginie part, man, ça fuck encore le chien. Faut pas que la Virginie parte.
These numbers, and I would say there's a regional
Ça
thing
fuck
that's
le
starting
chien,
to
man.
happen. You look at
Biden
Ohio,
needs Virginia.
you look at Pennsylvania numbers. They're early, but there are trend lines where Joe Biden is outperforming in the suburbs. He's outperforming among working class, and he's also outperforming in the rural areas, even though you don't count it. Just minimizing the losses is doing well.
And Arizona,
so
yeah. If Biden can take Arizona, it's also cool.
The vote total, in the sense of how many people show up in the suburbs versus working industrial areas versus urban, is going to be what's really interesting. Because I think the urban areas may not be performing to the kind of baseline of what people were expecting.
Yvette, are you seeing that across the country right now? The urban area is not performing
that was
as well.
That's not what we're seeing, and that's what I want to make sure I reserve comment until we see that. We're seeing a lot of, particularly in Ohio, Hamilton County, Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, huge turnout there. I mean, we're running not just on the presidential, but down ticket. We're winning all these races down ticket as well, and so I think we'll just have to wait and see. Some of those places, like Cuyahoga, for instance, people were still in line up until about a half an hour ago in Cuyahoga County.
Wow. Wait and see. And we're going to be doing that with every state all night long. Sarah Fagan,
look at that. Look at that. How close is Ohio?
Last debate where they thought that Joe Biden made a blunder by talking about ending fossil fuels and the issue of fracking. They thought that could give them headway in western Pennsylvania and coal country in these final 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think it probably will give him some headway. You know, whether he wins it or not, we'll see. I think Pennsylvania, to me, is the best case of the mirage, the red and blue mirage. We don't know whether these are early votes, whether these are absentee votes, whether they're day of votes yet. And so, you know, I would go back to something Nate Silver said, has been repeating over and over tonight. Wait till an entire jurisdiction is in before you get too excited.
I think we have to do that. There's no question about that. Eva Pilgrim, you spent a lot of time with suburban women in the state of Pennsylvania.
That's right, George. And specifically with moms, a lot of them telling me they usually avoid talking about politics amongst their mom groups. But this year, that just wasn't possible because so many of the things that are very political right now directly impact them and their children. In their text chains, you can see what some of those things are. They're talking about
White House.
masking their children. They're talking about virtual learning. Are you sending your kid back to
Trump
school?
Is eating
Should we go on vacation this summer? Those were all the discussions that they were having. And a lot of these moms telling me that, you know, previously in other elections, they weren't really that plugged in. They've maybe voted in a presidential election prior, but this year they thought it was very important to vote. George?
Eva Pilgrim, thanks very much. Let's go to Nate updates before we go to break. Nate, let's take one more look at your magical I shouldn't call it magical, your very scientific forecast there. And what happens if Pennsylvania flips this year, went to Donald Trump 4 years ago, goes to Joe Biden this time around?
So again, I'm going to
depends on
make this a bit
Virginia.
more suspenseful. Give Donald Trump Florida,
Look, it
Georgia,
still
North
gives
Carolina,
Pennsylvania, it still gives Virginia to Biden.
It's going to show us the numbers going up. We'll see where it calculates here in a second. It's not quite the same as Ohio because it's a little bit of a more purple state. But you see Biden's up to 91% despite losing the South. If he wins back Pennsylvania, they'd have to hold the Wisconsin and Michigan.
So that's really interesting. It kind of brings you back to where you were at the beginning of the night.
It narrows the range, right? If Biden wins Pennsylvania, things are not going to fall apart from in the Midwest. He's also not going to have any type of landslide victory. But it would bring the probability back. It would mean that you have a close election where Biden is favored, but it's this kind of wide range of possible outcomes.
Chris?
Just heard from Republican leadership in Ohio that Trump has now pulled ahead in Ohio and that they believe Trump will win between 1.5 and 2 points.
Right now, what we're seeing on our board right now is 64% of the expected vote in. Joe Biden just ahead by a little bit, but you're saying you're getting that from your sources right now inside Ohio. They're looking at the vote they're still waiting on, and they believe, at least, we're not ready to say that, they believe that Donald Trump will win the state of Ohio. Have to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
Just realized that the US guy was watching a Canadian stream for the US election.
Yeah. Yeah, man. This is the way.
I've been requested to bring this one back to its
just as the Mandalorian ad is rolling in, I see this is the way. You see? I'm connected with the show. Ouais, je vais arrêter le son d'un coup que je me fais
worst.
T'as-tu écouté la saison de Mandalorian?
Non, faudrait que j'écoute la première aussi.
Ok, t'as pas vu la 1, man, c'est pas vrai, c'est sick, là. C'est genre...
Ouais, il y a trop de choses à regarder.
Je sais. Je sais, yo, je sais même trop. Mais l'affaire, c'est que Mandalorian, c'est que ça sort un épisode par semaine.
Bon, mais c'est parfait, je vais attendre un peu, comme ça je vais pouvoir genre binge les deux premières
saisons. Ouais. Mais le show, il est vraiment bon, man. Un vrai bon western bien construit, là. Yo. Election night. Delaware, Sarah McBride becomes the nation's first trans state senator. How do you come across Bangaroo? Yeah. So when I decided to restart my stream because I started a couple of years ago and then just abandoned it. I went to a couple of I met my my monthly hours for getting affiliates, and I missed a couple followers, and I almost had my my average viewers of 3 per stream. So at least I was expecting it when it was updating. So I just went on a couple of subreddits to check for 1 or 2 follow because I was legit 1 or no, never mind. It was 3. I was 3 followers away from getting affiliates. So I just went on a follow subreddit and or just a Twitch affiliates subreddit, something like that. And I scrolled through the posts and I saw I think it was Nicole posting saying she was giving away a free design for a sub, something like that. And I had my Prime sub up, so I just click on him, followed, sub. I chat with him a bit, and then I've subbed to him. That's how it started for me. So it was from Reddit, really. Georgia, still 300,000 separating them. Okay, what does it say?
This is something we're seeing
and that's where I got that sick logo. The DK for Dikuyu. So yeah, so I just completed it with the rest of the word. But the DK, that's from her. It's really cool. Oh yeah, you met in high school. That's dope.
In the Atlanta counties, if Joe Biden can run up the score there, he can tighten this up. But President Trump is going to be happy with this number at this hour right now. But again, a lot of the vote out in Atlanta.
Lindsay Davis, what are you seeing in Georgia?
You know, Georgia is 6th overall when it comes to the total number of coronavirus cases in our country. I think that one good image is that Governor Kemp today dropped off his ballot in a ballot drop box because he's quarantining because he came into contact with somebody who tested positive on Friday, though it's worth noting that he also did take a rapid test and is subsequently tested negative. But look, we're seeing the same thing that we saw in North Carolina, where the 3 counties that are hardest hit by coronavirus, all are counties that voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. We'll remember that Governor Kemp was criticized for trying to open up Georgia early, and he then had that lawsuit against Keisha Bottoms, the mayor of Atlanta, when she implemented that mask mandate, which he later dropped. But what's interesting is, black voters make up 32% of the eligible
Georgia almost has the
Georgia.
same cases comparing to the province of Quebec.
Not turning out.
I just don't know what's the population of Georgia.
About the disproportionate effect on black and brown communities. Of course, black people make up 13% of the population, but 20% of the COVID deaths, 1 out of 900 black people have died as a result of
10 million. So here in Quebec, we are 8 million. So
look at the state of Texas.
A bit more than here.
Not expected to be a battleground this year, but it is close right now with about 76%.
Oh my God, that's so close.
Donald Trump has about a 2-point lead over Joe Biden right now. Tom, what stands out?
What stands out for me, George, as I put Texas here in the middle of the map so we can see it a little bigger, absentee, basically neck and neck, George. Look at that right there. Democrats had to build a lead on the early vote, especially in a state like Texas. But Republicans showed up early as well, and they voted there in Texas. Look, a lot of red counties. Texas has been Republican for a very long time. Jimmy Carter was the last Democrat to win this state. Some things that are good for Democrats are around the Dallas County suburb areas, and we'll show you why. So Fort Worth, which is usually a Republican stronghold, let me clear this out here. Tarrant County, 49%. It's neck and neck. President Trump won this by almost 10 points.
700 separating.
We go a little bit higher here to Denton County.
Oh no, that's bad.
Story. President Trump
underperforming
there.
That's gone.
But here's something that's interesting. In Houston, Harris County, the biggest county so far, it's essentially the same race as it was 4 years ago. Harris County, Houston, is an area where the Democrats have to run up the score even more if they have any chance of winning in Texas. Because you go to one of these red counties, George, look at that, in East Texas, it's 3-1, and it's like that all across East Texas.
Mine's, it's from...
is going to be returned as a Republican senator.
Is it
from
Normand?
Texas, but
No,
in the
it's
final days of
Breton.
his campaign, he started to break
In
a
France.
little bit uncharacteristically from
Bretagne?
President Trump.
No, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm basically coming from France.
Texas and the changing nature, he's catching up to the changing nature
most of people,
of the state of Texas, which is we've talked
most
about
Quebecers
earlier, has gone from a solid red state
are
to
coming
now,
from
I think,
France
a slightly red
because
state.
we're
I
the
think in
only
end, Biden's gonna get really
unilingual
close to the state, as I look at the
francophones
numbers, very close,
in
closer
all
than any
North
presidential
America.
candidate in 40 some odd years. But I don't think he's going to have enough. It's those last 2 or 3 points.
Were you born there, or you were born in the U.S.?
I'm going to say is what's played out in Florida is not playing out in Texas. So I think I'd counsel everybody to not interpret one place as meaning it's going to affect another place. The Hispanic vote here went really well for Joe Biden, much better than it did Donald Trump.
Do you have a lot of that Indian background with you in your family? With your parents being born there?
State, Florida, may be about Florida, but it may not necessarily be about others.
What do we say?
You must float in that Indian culture for sure.
Similar to what Matt Dowd was saying, some pretty decent exit polls for the president, though, who's looking at this, 55% approve. But to Matt's point on the Latino vote, which is significant, 59% went for Joe Biden, though I'll point out that
music
Hillary
is
Clinton
rolling.
had 61% 4 years ago. So Joe Biden still has some room to
He's about to announce something.
Okay, coming up on 10 p.m. in the East, polls are going to close in 4 more states. We'll be right back.
Oh, cool. Yeah, 5 minutes, yeah. Well, I've never been to India before. Is it in your plans? Is it something you want to do, or you just don't really care? this off. Wow, how many Mandalorians ads are they putting on? I like, it's the first one every commercial break, and at least once more. Never been on a plane. Yeah, it's a terrific experience, really. And we have Chris Jack here in the voice chat, which is in the pilot's school, driving plane. Yep. And he just said it earlier in the stream that he had his first what is it, failure? It wasn't a motor failure.
Yeah, it was an electrical failure.
Electrical failure. Man. Yeah, but I think Ali would require a bigger plane to travel to India than what you were flying.
Well, it would be possible.
It will be possible? Yeah, with many stops.
But it would be possible.
Can you was it a Cessna something or something like that?
Cessna 150.
Yeah, with that type of Cessna, can you cross the Pacific Ocean, or you would have to go over the top in Alaska and Russia and Detroit Bering?
Yeah, well, not in one go. You'd have to go up north.
Yeah, up north, or maybe you can stop to Hawaii and then Guam and then little islands like that, or yeah, you will go all over the top.
Let me check.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let me see all your pilot skills you're paying for. Oh wait, they're back. I'm gonna put this on. Oh yeah, that's so early. Every experience that Chris Jack is telling me seems so relaxed. Like, for all of us that are non-pilots, it seems really really stressing experience with a lot of pressure, like you say. But it really doesn't seem stress at all.
Yep. I have a problem. I don't know.
Yeah, you're just like that. You're just a cool guy.
Yo, it was kind of fun having a failure today.
Yeah, I was driving the plane a couple hundred feet in the air and something broke. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Ah, madman. Okay, so what's up in North Carolina? Oh my god, the gap is so close. It's only 30,000 votes lead for Biden in North Carolina. It's so small. Yeah, so I think what the Republicans told the guy at ABC that they expect to pass Biden at the very end seems to be happening. Pennsylvania, 30,000 vote lead. Ohio.
Greenland, it would be possible. You'd have to go up north, North Quebec, and then Iqaluit.
Yeah. Oh, wait, you would go over the top like that?
Yeah, with my little Honda Civic.
Okay, so you would go over the Arctic Ocean, and then you cross Russia from the top down to India. That's what you're saying? That's terrible. No, you don't want to fly in over the Arctic Ocean, do you?
No, in
That's
fact,
too cold.
I think I would be blocked in Iceland.
You would what? You would be blocked in Iceland?
Yeah, no, not even. From Iceland to Faroe Island. That's possible, and then into UK. And UK, well, you could go pretty much anywhere in Europe and Asia.
Okay.
So it's possible. Would I do it?
Okay.
No, but it's possible.
Anyway, thanks. Oh yeah, we move. Hey, thanks a lot, Ali, for coming, for joining us in the stream. Really appreciated. And I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow night Because I think there will be a lot of stuff to talk about this election, and maybe a lot of states still counting the votes. So it won't be over tomorrow night, so I'll be doing another one if you want to join us.
I'm the candidate of police officers, the middle class, law-abiding, hard-working American patriots, and others. There will be no blue states
and others.
Just the United States. I'll work
wow.
as hard for those who
so condescending.
as those who voted for me, because that's what a president's supposed to do.
Live from New York City and across the country.
Wow, j'ai quasiment entendu lies from New York City.
C'est vrai, hein, quand il était live, on aurait dit.
On this election night 2020, that's where things stand right now. Joe Biden has won 9
nice
states,
graphic.
89 electoral votes. Donald Trump has won 10 states, 72 electoral votes, but all of the big battlegrounds are still out there right now. The polls have still just closed in 4 additional states. Let's take a look at that right now. State of Iowa, key state in the middle of the country, 6 electoral votes, key Senate race there as well. We cannot project a winner right there, but Kana Whitworth is on the ground for us in Iowa tonight, where she's focused on the
Okay. In Virginia, the lead is closing. It's only now 200,000 lead, no more 300,000, I think. So it's 52% to 45, and with 43% in. So yeah, okay. So maybe we were just freaking out in Virginia, but Ohio. You see, maintenant Trump est lead dans Ohio maintenant. Il lead par 100 000 votes. Pennsylvanie. Trump il lead par quasiment 50 000. Oh, yeah. Faut qu'il y en ait un qui flippe dans ça. Là. Avec la Pennsylvanie flippe aussi.
Virginie, tantôt, on avait genre un 300 000 de différence.
Ouais, là, c'est rendu à 200 000. Là, fait que ça close in.
Now, it's important to note here that, of course, Donald Trump has a lot of support. He was made an honorary member of the Iowa Corn Growers Association, which is a big deal here.
Le Texas a switché aussi. Encore là, c'est pas énorme, mais...
Ouais.
To China.
Quand même 200 000. Là.
Quite frankly, that is something that the Obama-Biden administration
ok, puis là, tu vois, genre, depuis 2 minutes, l'Arizona, ça vient de close. Fait qu'on va avoir des résultats en Arizona aussi. C'est un autre battleground important. Wyoming, Montana, bon, ça veut rien dire.
In recent polls, she's trying to fend off her Democratic challenger, Teresa Greenfield. Now, some surprised that it's such a battle here for Joni Ernst. She's a rising star in the Republican Party. And Teresa
Man, Michigan, man, il y a pas mal de voir virer.
Unknown. She describes herself as a businesswoman and a scrappy farm girl. But the Democrats, George, dumped $94 million into her campaign, trying to flip that seat.
Kana Whitworth, thanks very much. The polls have also closed in 3 more states. Polls have closed in the state of Nevada. 6 electoral votes in play. A lot of early voting in that state, but we cannot project a winner yet. Polls have also closed in the state of Utah. Again, a vote-by-mail state, but we cannot call that yet. 6 electoral votes. And the polls have closed in the state of Montana. 3 electoral votes, key Senate race there as well, but not enough vote in to make a projection yet. So we want to take another look now at one of the key states in that so-called blue wall for the Democrats, the state of Michigan. Right now, 23% of the expected vote is in, and Donald Trump, it appears, Tom Yamas, has a huge lead right now.
Yeah, okay, so spoiler alert, it's a little funky right now in Michigan, okay? Let me show you why. The big reason, George, is because we don't have the early vote yet, okay? We don't have the early vote in yet, so we can't sort of work that into our numbers so far. But here's one reason why these numbers at this point don't make sense. Wayne County, you have Donald Trump on top, but there's only 3% of the vote in. Macomb County, which is one of those really key counties that President Trump won 4 years ago, the home of the Reagan Democrats, he's way up, but he's way up from where he was 4 years ago. So again, there's not enough vote in. We're going to be looking at places like Grand Rapids. This is Kent County, where President Trump won 4 years ago. But again, these are all areas that 2 years later, Gretchen Whitmer came in that blue wave, and she was able to turn those counties back to blue.
John Carl, of course, we saw all the polls.
Oh man, si le Michigan reste rouge, c'est dead là. Tout passé avec la conquête du Michigan.
This could be
ça va être tough si...
Ça va être tough avec Chris.
It's either the polling was way off and a lot of pollsters should be fired, or we're seeing a bit of a red mirage here. And remember, in the state of Michigan, there's a lot of mail-in voting, and the state, in most of the state, they don't even open the ballots until today. In some jurisdictions, they started opening them yesterday. It takes time. It takes a long time. They had warned us that the vote in Michigan is likely to take well beyond tonight. So I would expect, as that mail-in vote is counting, that's Democratic vote, that margin, those numbers change pretty dramatically.
Let's take a look at the state of Michigan, of Wisconsin as well right now. Let's pull that up. 30% of the expected vote in. A little bit closer there, Tom.
Ah non, regarde, ça tient pas non plus, man.
But Donald Trump is slightly ahead.
C'est ça qu'ils sont en train de dire, là, que ça risque de switcher quand on va compter les...
23,000 votes. We're going to be talking about Milwaukee. This is so important. 15% of the total vote. Joe Biden is where he needs to be, but he's got to bring that number up a little bit. We only have about 30% of the vote in, so he can catch up there. We're also going to be talking about the wow counties. This is Waukesha, Ozaukee, and some of the others, Washington as well. In Waukesha, President Trump won 4 years ago. This is actually a pretty good lead for him at 60%.
Okay, il y a la même chose.
What he had 4 years ago. That's exactly what he has to do. Still not enough vote in. Like some of these swing counties I can take a look at here. Price, a tiny county, Donald Trump on top, building on his lead there, but only 12%. So it's a little hard to sort of pull data out of here. In Green Bay, Brown County, Donald Trump's sort of performing where he needs to be. But again, it's so little here. Kenosha, of course, we want to talk about as well because it had such a big role. We were talking about the social justice that swept across the country with the Jacob Blake shooting there. Donald Trump on top. He won this just barely 4 years ago. He has a big lead right now. But again, I just think that there still needs a lot of vote to come in.
While we're looking at the blue wall, let's pick up Pennsylvania again. Let's take a check back in and see where Pennsylvania is. At this point, 23% of the expected vote in.
All right, we got a lot more vote in here, George. So let's take a look. We'll start with Scranton, Joe Biden's hometown, Lackawanna County.
Il est en retard dans son propre comté, yo, wow.
Like those numbers, Joe Biden is not just south of that, Lucerne. This is Wilkes-Barre, PA. Joe Biden behind again there. He's doing better than Hillary Clinton. That's some good news, but President Trump still on top. And we got to talk about Philadelphia again. We're still waiting for a lot of the vote to come in here. Philadelphia, giant margins, but this is what John Carl was just talking about. George, we just don't have the vote in, only 9%. Those counties around, this is Bucks County. This is kind of Montgomery, excuse me. Let me see if we can find Bucks over here. Philadelphia, let's go over here. Yeah, Chester. Oh, we don't have Bucks yet. Chester's another big suburbs around the Philadelphia area.
Oh, il trouve une excuse. Il est tout mêlé.
Look, George, 23%, and it's hard to kind of pull any kind of narratives at this point, so early in the night. Pittsburgh, we'll look at this because this is where Joe Biden has to run up the score, and there he has at 80%. That's a great number for him, but only 15%. And George, it's tough at this hour.
It may be a little early to start to play out narratives, but Emmanuel, let's try to do a little bit. This is looking a little bit right now like a replay of 2016.
Well, I'm not sure. The problem we have is you have so much early voting, and every state is different of when they count that. And so we're looking at counties, and you can extrapolate. I mean, you look at how close Ohio is. It's basically 6% right now, better than it was in 2016. But you look at, I think it's still going to come down to Pennsylvania. I think this entire election is going to be basically still what everybody thought going into it. But if you look at where Joe Biden was performing in Ohio, Akron, Toledo, Hamilton County, Cuyahoga County, Franklin County, you can extrapolate that that's very good news for both Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. But again, each state counts their early votes. Some of them count before the day of the polls close.
Ouais, mais on sait pas, man.
Pennsylvania, they don't start counting them. They have still got 3 more days of ballots to come in. So it's going to be very hard, but you do have trend lines that show a performance about working class, older voters, suburban voters, college-educated voters.
But so far, we haven't seen, Chris Christie, any big surprises yet. We haven't called any of the battlegrounds at all, and this is going to take
some time. It's going to take some time. But, George, I think what we know now tonight, after 10 o'clock, is that the predictions that this was going to be a big Biden win are done.
Yeah,
and really what this is going to come down to now is a few states, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Arizona. Everything I'm seeing, we haven't called anything yet, but Republicans are very optimistic in Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, and Iowa. And so it's really now...
And Ohio.
And Ohio. So you're really coming down to Pennsylvania, Arizona, and get Ohio to a place where everybody is comfortable. So no one was predicting that 24 hours ago. They were predicting 3 the 330 votes for electoral votes for Joe Biden.
As you're talking, I just got some news in my ear, and I want to pull up the state of Arizona because this is potentially big news right here from the state of Arizona. 70% of the expected vote is in from Arizona. There were so
70% in d'un coup, puis il y a 300 000.
The 2016 vote came in before Election Day, and one of the things you see right there is that Donald Trump is now losing the 70% of the expected vote into Joe Biden, 55 to 44. Tommy Amos, let's take a dive.
Ouais, mais ça, c'est le vote par anticipation. Là.
This is a major story and a major development. Not all the vote is in right now, but Maricopa County, this is going to be 3/4 of the total vote in all of Arizona. Joe Biden is on top. 4 years ago, this was a county, let me show you, 4 years ago, this was a county that President Trump won. It was tight, but that Joe Biden has this lead right now is very encouraging news for Democrats. We're going to go to the Democratic stronghold
now. Ça vient 70% d'un coup, ça veut dire que ça, c'est le vote par anticipation, clairement. Là. Ça peut pas être autre chose. Là.
OK, oui, ben oui, c'est ça, c'est l'Arizona. OK, oui, je viens de voir. Avec un 200 de plus pour Biden.
Quoi?
Un 200 de plus pour Biden.
Ouais.
President Trump looks like he's doing well. He's building on the lead he had 4 years ago. But again, Maricopa County, and Maricopa really, it's a reflection of America. You have big cities like Phoenix. You have medium-sized cities like Scottsdale, agricultural. You have the universities, the tourist areas. Joe Biden's looking at this number right now. It's going to make him very happy.
David Muir, what do the exit polls say about Arizona?
A couple of things coming out of Arizona right now that are really interesting. First of all, independents outnumber Democrats and Republicans in that state. So let's go right to that. 52% of independents, according to the exit polls, are going with Joe Biden. And when you go down some of these numbers, President Trump's job performance, 53% disapprove of his handling of the job as president. The opinion of Trump, 54% have an unfavorable view, so underwater, and more so than many of the states we looked at so far. Look at Joe Biden, 50% favorable. And when you start getting into some of these key areas, COVID, Joe Biden has the edge in handling COVID. The economy, though, is Donald Trump's strength, it appears, in Arizona, at least according to the exit polls. Got a 3-point lead there, but still very close. One more key area, George, Hispanic and Latino vote. Joe Biden with 63% of the Latino vote tonight in Arizona.
According to the exit polls, John Carl, we know there are national trends at play here, but Arizona has.
Non, mais ça change rien, là. Ça change rien. L'Arizona n'est pas suivi. L'Arizona, yo Vince, si l'Arizona tourne, mais pas la Pennsylvanie, pas le Ohio, pas rien, ça fait 269 à 269, ça fait une égalité. Juste avec l'Arizona, yo. Ah non, mais il faut qu'il gagne le fucking Michigan, c'est police.
Ouais, mais comme il disait tantôt, Michigan, ça se peut encore.
Ouais. Down to half staff when McCain died. None of that played well in Arizona. But I do want to have a note of caution on Arizona. Arizona is the reverse of what I was saying about Pennsylvania and Michigan. Arizona is where they're counting. They've been counting the early vote for weeks. So as the day vote comes in, I expect Arizona to get a lot closer. And I think Governor Christie made an important point here. This is going to be a long night, and we're going to
be a long week.
It could be a long week. We're going to need patience. I don't see Joe Biden running away with any of those states in the Sun Belt. We'll see what happens in Arizona, but we're going to be waiting on Pennsylvania. We may be waiting on Michigan and Wisconsin.
Nate,
George,
go ahead.
One interesting thing from Michigan Republican leadership that just came in the Senate race. In the vote by mail that's been counted so far, and it's about 25% overall counted, Senator Peters is winning by about 20 points in the vote by mail. But on the election day voting, John James is winning by 22 points. So what they're looking at least in the first 25% of the vote, is that it's going to be a very close Senate race in Michigan. We don't know yet what will happen, but there's not a blowout there, and it's doing exactly what John was talking about in Arizona. You know, it's splitting very heavy Democrat on the vote by mail, but very heavy Republican, 22 points on voting today.
The Arizona, I just got a report from the Biden campaign, the Arizona vote by mail is outperforming their ex-model by 70,000 votes. They expected 150,000 margin. They got a 220,000 margin.
Okay, let's go to Nate Silver then and take a look at Nate, let's look at your forecast and show what happens if the state of Arizona, red in 2016, goes to blue in 2020.
And again, we're going to give Trump Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, where he's probably the favorite at this point. But again, if Biden wins Arizona, then he's going to shoot up to, I think, around 70-some% here. It's not as important for him as Pennsylvania. It's not a Midwestern state. Actually, more than that.
No, Pennsylvania, no.
But, you know, Trump has to hit, like I said, all his marks, and Arizona is one where he would much prefer to have won.
Okay, Nate Silver, thanks very much. Coming up on 10:15 here in these, we have to take another quick break. We'll be right back.
N'importe quoi son affaire, man. C'est n'importe quoi. C'est legit n'importe quoi. Wow.
Are you ready? Drop in and explore. The action, the adventure, and the originals. There's no limit to what you'll find. These are your worlds. So come on. Dive deeper into the universes you love. Wherever and whenever you want them. You'll find them all here on Disney+.
Now could be a good time to have another baby.
Are you crazy? I'm in love with you. Now that I said it out loud, it does sound weird.
Man.
Please stop.
You were so fine, I had to remind myself to breathe. Let's do this.
How's your quarantine going?
Susan Powell was a young, beautiful mother. She just one night vanished.
Where is Susan?
July.
J'arrête ça, là, je veux pas cette chanson-là. Non, non, non. Le New Jersey vient de légaliser le weed, la marijuana. Maricopa. Ah.
Ouais, c'est un bout que ça bouge pas, hein?
Ouais. Aïe aïe. Man. Georgia. Election night. Oh, they're back.
Back here at ABC News Election Headquarters in New York around 10:18 Eastern Time. And we want to take another look at the state of Ohio right now. 72% of the vote is in right now. And Tom Yamas, Donald Trump has pulled ahead now of Joe Biden in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, George, we're going to need a neck brace for Ohio. I told you earlier in the night it was looking like 2012, the map. Now it's looking like back to 2016. Donald Trump has gained control of Ohio.
Wow,
He's sworn back a lot of those counties that were looking blue, places like Wood, Ohio, this county just south of Toledo. You can see Donald Trump on top. He's actually doing a little bit better. But the big question is the three C's, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Cleveland. This is where Democrats are going to have to run up the vote. All the votes not in Cuyahoga County yet, and Joe Biden is doing really well there. He's overperforming. It's a similar story in Columbus. 66% of the vote is in.
Columbus, tu veux dire Franklin?
From where Clinton was. And Cincinnati, Hamilton County. This used to be Republican stomping grounds. It switched over with Obama, and tonight Joe Biden has a very significant lead there. George, the story is this. He's going to have to run up the vote in the big cities. The rural counties are sticking with Donald Trump tonight.
Well, that seems to be the question. That the margins are good in the cities for Joe Biden, but are enough voters coming out for him?
We've seen significant turnout in the three C's. I mean, not just early vote, but on Election Day. I mean, they were predicting at about 2 o'clock in Hamilton County, we were at 60% of our total registration number, which is a really big deal. They were projecting to beat 70% of our total registration.
Je pense que Radio-Canada est quasiment plus réalistique.
I think the big thing is these urban centers, they're counted slower. That's where most of the votes are, and they'll come in later.
Radio-Can dit que c'est fini pour Biden.
Particularly because he's overperforming Hillary Clinton by so much.
C'est rough, là.
That the work is working, that the message is getting out to those folks.
The other big question, Matt Dowd.
Ouais, mais ça devrait pas être serré au Michigan, tu comprends?
Trump's voters coming out in record numbers as well.
I think that's clear. I think it's even if you look at the total numbers that we think are going to be cast, it's definitely true. It was true in Florida. It looks like Donald Trump is going to get more votes in Florida this year not only percentage-wise, but more total votes by far, by hundreds of thousands that he did last time. So it's absolutely clear. I disagree on part of this. It's not.
C'est à cause des Grands Lacs, c'est so-so, mais il a perdu la Floride puis North Carolina. Ouais, ouais, mais c'est correct. Mais c'est les Grands Lacs qui font. Ouais, man. Les Grands Lacs, c'est fucked up. Après ça, si il capable d'aller chercher la Pennsylvanie, c'est good, mais faut pas qu'ils perdent rien aux Grands Lacs, là, genre rien.
You just have to say, look at those rallies that he did. He did 17 rallies over the past few days. He did something like 27 over the past week. They always the Republicans talked about their turnout operation. They talked about how they had invested in it for the past 3.5+ years.
C'est là que c'est rough. C'est là que ça fait mal, puis les pollings ne le voyaient pas pantoute, là.
There's no question about it.
Okay, let's take another look at the state of Georgia. 52% of the vote, expected vote is in right now, and Donald Trump has quite a wide lead with that 52% of the expected vote, Tom Yamas.
Yeah, I know, George, but this race is far, far from over, and I'll explain why right here. We've been talking about the state of Georgia and, of course, the state of Atlanta.
Mais l'affaire avec Michigan, l'Ohio, tout le monde le voyait safe, mais le Michigan, le monde, les pollings le voyaient vraiment plus bleu. Là. Il y avait des bons leads au Michigan.
There's about 250,000 votes that Hillary Clinton got 4 years ago. Here in Gwinnett County, we only have 17%
on parle d'un 200 000 de différence avec un 35% de vote de rentrée.
Michigan, ouais.
Wisconsin, on parle même pas de 100 000 de différence avec encore là un 39.
Ouais, non, ça va. Parce que ça va se décider, genre.
We have a Senate projection right now. It's in the state of Alabama. And Tommy Tuberville is going to be the next senator from the state of Alabama, Republican, former Auburn football coach, defeated Senator Doug Jones, a Democrat who was seeking his first full term. Of course, he won a special election in 2007.
Bon, ils ont tradé un sénateur pour un sénateur.
John Carl, the president had a lot of personal interest in this race.
He did. This was Jeff Sessions' seat, and Jeff Sessions left the seat to become Donald Trump's attorney general.
Ouais, l'Ohio aussi, là. L'Ohio, c'était pas comptabilisé, mais il fallait que Biden gagne Michigan, Wisconsin.
Tommy Tuberville and worked very hard, actually, to get Sessions to lose. Not a surprise that Doug Jones is losing here. This was really a once-in-a-lifetime situation that brought Doug Jones, a Democrat, representing Alabama in the Senate.
Moi, là-dessus, je vais te laisser.
C'est bon, man.
Je vais essayer de venir te rejoindre demain soir.
All right. Hey, merci d'être passé, yo. Ciao, Vince.
Bonne soirée.
Yeah, man, c'est triste.
A net gain of 3 seats if Joe Biden wins. Again, that's because Kamala Harris would then become that tie-breaking vice presidential vote. If Donald Trump wins, then they would need a net gain of 4 seats tonight. Democrats, though, of course, are very optimistic that they can still tonight gain the majority.
Coming up on 10:30, a long way to go on this election night 2020. We'll be right back.
Oh, yo, man. C'est tellement close. On sait pas là, comment que ça va virer pour ce qui est du vote par anticipation. Là. C'est ça l'affaire. C'est ça qui fuck le chien. Là. Bon, tais-toi. Oh, aïe, aïe, aïe. Ohio, yeah, man. Yeah, man. Good morning, tomorrow morning. Ah, c'est ça, là. C'est quasiment l'affaire le plus gros qu'on peut avoir. Au Michigan, ils perçoivent des votes jusqu'au 13. Ouais, c'est ça. Le Michigan, ça va durer longtemps. Même chose pour la Pennsylvanie, ils ont 3 jours. Fait que Pennsylvanie, ça va se décider, je pense, d'ici la fin de la semaine. Michigan, je savais pas que ça allait toffer jusqu'au 13 novembre. Fait qu'il y a peut-être de quoi à ce niveau-là, mais d'ici là, ce qui arrive, c'est qu'ils auront plein d'interventions. Genre, les 2 parties vont lawyer up. Puis ils vont quasiment analyser chaque vote pour dire qu'ils sont le rejette, on le prend, on le rejette, on le prend, on le rejette, on le prend. Mais oui, le pays est divisé, là, c'est fou, là. Ah, il avait donné l'autre avant, là. C'est bon. New Mexico, man. NBC. NBC l'a déjà donné. Le Sénat, juste 4 autres sénateurs de plus, puis ça gagne. Ah, 400 000, c'est beaucoup. Ah, la Caroline du Nord, man, Trump est en avance par 40 000 voix seulement, là. Wow! On va jouer au fil d'arrivée, man. Le gars, Chris Christie, dit que les républicains pensent gagner par 1 ou 2 points à la toute fin en Caroline du Nord. Ça ressemble à être ça, en tout cas. Ok, ça se resserre à... Ça sert quand même à 200 000, mais ok, il y a encore la moitié des votes, là. Il y a trop qui votent. Ohio, les casses creuses, man. Les casses creuses en Ohio, mais c'est Wisconsin. Wisconsin, 50 000 de différence entre les deux. Trump en avance, mais avec 33% du vote in. Michigan, c'est 200 000 Trump en avance, puis avec 33% du vote in aussi. Minnesota, c'est pas un enjeu. Pennsylvanie, quasiment 200 000 aussi, avec 30% du vote in. L'Arizona, c'est rendu comment? Il y a encore le même 200 000 à 75%. Il n'y a pas de progression, je pense. Je pense que le 5% de plus qu'il y a eu, il suit les trucs. Mais bon, faut voir. Mais c'est ça. L'Arizona, c'est une bonne prise si tu perds pas la Virginie, si tu réussis à gagner le Michigan, si tu réussis à gagner le Wisconsin. Si tu gagnes, si tu gagnes pas ces deux-là, les deux derniers, c'est dead. La Virginie, il fallait juste pour pas que ça soit perdu, c'est con. On va me canter un peu, là. On est bien, là. Bon, réveillez-moi quand il y a un gagnant, ok? Ouais, dites-le. Ok. Le dodo est terminé. Ah, ok. Wisconsin. 50 000, c'est ça.
Welcome to Disney Plus.
Franchement, Disney. Yoï yoï. Qu'est-ce qui se passe avec Disney? Mais tu sais, ce qui capote, c'est que Trump est en train de gagner le Rhode Island. Trump est en train de gagner le Maine. Genre. What up? Qu'est-ce qui se passe avec ces deux? Oh, on va tourner ça. Ouais, comme ça. Cool, cool, cool. Ouais, c'est Gigi la Floride. C'est dead. Texas. Il y a un 300 000 de différence. Fait que c'est Gigi aussi. Caroline du Nord. Fuck. Il y a encore le même 40 000 de différence. Ça va être assez spectaculaire comme fin, man. Pour moi, l'Ohio, ça doit être un gunner. Ça se passera pas en Ohio. I don't think so. Vamos por isso. Oh. Dun, 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 dun. Election night.
Polls have closed in 44 states, and it is a close race so far. Joe Biden has won 10 states, 93 electoral votes. Donald Trump has won 12 states, 83 electoral votes. Not a surprise yet. Right now, that is a rerun of the 2016 map. We can add 2 more states right now, though. Joe Biden's going to win the state of New Hampshire, and it's 4 electoral votes. Donald Trump had fought pretty hard. They thought that was one of those states they might be able to take back in 2020, but it was not to be. Joe Biden will win the state of New Hampshire, and it's 4 electoral votes, but Donald Trump will hold on to Louisiana, and it's 8 electoral votes. No surprise there. Blue state stays blue, red state stays red. So let's take another look at those key states up in the northern tier of the country. Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, the so-called blue wall. Right now, that's where things stand. Michigan with 33% of the vote in.
Oh, c'est rendu, Wisconsin, c'est rendu à juste 20 000.
35% of the vote in. Donald Trump has a lead. Pennsylvania, 31% of the vote in. Donald Trump has a lead. John Carl, the question there is,
qui sont en retard sur
NBC. Happening here?
I mean, in all of these states, first of all, they're going to take time to get final results. All of these states are states that do not process mail-in vote as it comes in, which is the opposite of what we see in Arizona, the opposite of what we see in Florida. So we always knew there was going to be a bit of a red mirage factor here. As they open up those ballots, as they process that, those are going to be more Democratic votes. Those numbers will change. The question is, how much will they change?
Okay, that's an important point right there. I want to come to Pennsylvania in a minute, but right now we're just getting some results in from the state of Nebraska. And Donald Trump has won not all of the votes yet in the state of Nebraska, but he has won 3 of the 5 votes in the state of Nebraska. That's the overall state vote. Nebraska, one of those states that splits their electoral votes also among congressional districts. Tom Yamas, why don't you explain that?
Yeah, okay, so let's take a look at Nebraska right now and follow along with us because it gets a little complicated. As George mentioned, Nebraska splits its electoral votes. Here is the beautiful state of Nebraska right here. We're going to show you 2 counties right here. This is Sarpy, a conservative county that makes up the 2nd congressional district. Donald Trump should be on top right now, and he's not. He won this county 4 years ago, and that's good news for Joe Biden because just above this is Douglas County, and it's like the numbers are reversed here, George. Hillary Clinton won this 4 years ago. This is Omaha right here, right? And Democrats usually always win this area, even though Trump pulled off the win in the congressional district 4 years ago. It was because of that other county. The numbers are inverted right now. Still very, very close here. To give you an idea of the size of this county, it's essentially like this. It is minuscule. But if the race were to come down, and I don't want to say it, but you know what it is. If it were to come down to 269, whoever won that one county, that tiny little county, Nebraska, those would be the most important Americans right now on the planet.
That turns it into a 270, 268. We also have...
Something I want to say to them right now.
I can't believe you already have their number.
Hello, can you hear me there?
You should have their number. That's malpractice, bro.
I have their emails.
We do have another state to call right now. The state of Utah is going to go to Donald Trump. Again, not much of a surprise right there. Donald Trump is going to win the state of Utah, and it's 6 electoral votes. Even though that's the home of Mitt Romney, of course, is the only Republican senator who voted to convict Donald Trump in the impeachment trial. Let's go back now to the state of Pennsylvania. David Muir, you had some exit polls from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, it's really interesting. This is just to pick up what John Carl was saying, is that these blue wall states are going to take days possibly for us to find out who actually won of these states. The Secretary of State in Pennsylvania warned us in the last couple of days that it could take
bonne chance avec ton exemple, boy.
Pennsylvania. But there are some numbers here that I would think the Biden campaign would be very happy with. When you take a look at suburban voters in Pennsylvania, Donald Trump with a small edge there, according to the exit polls, 2 points ahead of Biden. But when you remember that he was 8 points ahead in the final tally over Hillary Clinton, 2 points is an improvement for Joe Biden. And you can see where he got the improvement from. When you break it down, Donald Trump still has overwhelmingly done well.
C'est les white women dans les suburbs.
This is where the gender gap presents itself. In Pennsylvania, at least, we've seen this in other states too coming in. 53% of suburban women going with Joe Biden. One other thing here that was really interesting interesting is the independent vote coming in from Pennsylvania. According to the exit polls, obviously, and these are all still preliminary, 53% of independents are going with Joe Biden. That's a flip from 4 years ago. 4 years ago, Donald Trump won independents in Pennsylvania, 48-41. Now Biden ahead by, what is that, almost 10 points in Pennsylvania.
According to the exit polls, we'll see if it holds up as the real results come in right now. We want to take another look at the state of Minnesota as well. Again, that was a state that President Trump had hoped he might be able to flip like the state of New Hampshire.
Hey, merci man, j'en suis demain soir aussi en lien avec, avec tout ça. Bonne nuit, bon examen.
Alex Perez in Minnesota.
Yeah, George, and what we're seeing is that Joe Biden has a huge lead in Hennepin County, the most populous county here in Minnesota. We're seeing 93% of the vote coming in from Hennepin County, about 70% of that vote right now going to Joe Biden. Those are the kinds of numbers that Democrats want to see here in Minnesota. There were 19 counties that Obama wanted Hillary lost to Trump back in 2016, and the Democrats are hoping they're going to be able to win back those so-called pivot counties. Now, the important vote, the rural areas, the Iron Range, the other part of the state, we still don't know the exact numbers from that area. That part of the state typically looks better for Republicans, typically went for Trump, so we will have to wait a little bit later in the evening to figure out those numbers. But right now, Hennepin County, Ramsey County, the populous areas of this state looking good for the Biden campaign. George.
Alex Perez, thanks very much. Let's take another look at North Carolina right now. We've got the state of North Carolina with 89% of the expected vote in. Is a very close race right now.
Wow.
50, Joe Biden at 49. Tom Yamas.
Yeah, so we have just one county that we have no data on right now in North Carolina. The race is very, very close. We're looking at a spread of about 40,000 votes. This is Granville County right here. This is a swing county. President Trump won it back for Republicans 4 years ago. There's about 15,000 votes for Republicans, 15 to 20,000 votes. That could affect the score. I mean, this is such a close race. This was a state that President Trump outright won 4 years ago, and yet right now it's a nail-biter. A lot of the swing counties, President Trump has been able to hold on, especially in the southern part of the state on the border of South Carolina. But Charlotte, this is Mecklenburg County. This is where they wanted to hold the RNC, Republicans, hopefully to drive out some voters there later on in the year. That didn't happen because of COVID. Joe Biden's doing exactly what he has to do here. He's driving up the votes. So to win in North Carolina for Joe Biden, he's going to have to do that there and in Wake County as well. We're still waiting for some of the vote in there, but you can see Joe Biden is building on that Hillary Clinton lead in those counties. If he can keep doing that, there might still be enough vote out there, but President Trump right now on top with about 40,000 votes.
Byron Pitts, what are you hearing in Raleigh?
Well, George, I can tell you that at this point, the Democrats in the state are getting nervous. The expectation was that they knew they would have an early lead, but they thought it would be big enough that they could hold off a Republican surge. They were looking for a double-digit lead when the numbers came out, and it was only 9 points. And since that time, steadily as each half hour has passed, you've seen the President Trump gain ground, and eventually he's taken the lead. And the sense is that the Democrats may be running out of time. And, George, it's still early, right? I mean, North Carolina could go either way. But at this point, one of the things that we can see is that hard work can outwork money. In this state, for instance, in the Senate race, the Democrat outspent the Republican 2-1. And in TV advertising, the Trump campaign spent in TV and radio ads. The Trump and the RNC spent $41 million. Biden and the DNC spent $56 million. And that cash difference at this point doesn't seem to be a sufficient difference for the Democrats in a state in which they felt good going into the night that they might have a comfortable lead that they could hold on to. But to this point, the Republican strategy to start close and then finish strong seems to be the direction that we're going in, George.
Byron Pitts, thanks very much. We have another call to make, another projection to make in the state of Kansas. Donald Trump is going to win the state of Kansas. Again, that's a strong red state. Has always been 6 electoral votes. He won by 21 points back in 2016. Donald Trump will win again. I want to bring in Senator Chris Coons now, Senator of Delaware, close friend and advisor to Joe Biden. It looks like we're in for a very long night, Senator Coons, maybe even several days.
Well, George, we had a record early turnout. 100 million Americans voted early, whether in person or by mail. And as we're hearing from all over the country, we had record turnout in many states. So I'm optimistic. When there's record turnout, often that means Democrats win. And I'm hopeful that Joe still has several paths to 270 and towards being our next president. I think his message all along that he and Kamala Harris can bring our country together, can move us out of this deadly pandemic and the mess that Donald Trump's bungled mishandling of the pandemic has gotten us into, has connected with voters and moved people to the polls. I've been checking in with local elected officials, colleagues in the Senate, labor leaders in several states, and I'm still optimistic about a number of key states that haven't come in yet.
Let's talk about that a little bit more. You say he still has
C'est
several
dead.
pass. It looks like
4 more
Donald
years,
Trump,
boys.
Have not projected yet, but is on track in Florida towards a win. That was a must-win for him. Are we really heading back to the point where Joe Biden has to win all those 3 key blue wall states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, still holding out hope also in Arizona?
Arizona, I'm optimistic about, given what I'm hearing from a number of elected officials and local organizers there. And I think that means there's several different paths. It doesn't all come down to Pennsylvania. But I'll remind you, George, part of why Joe was a great candidate from the outset is he's someone who was born and raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, has always been close to the people of Pennsylvania, and I think has run a terrific race in Pennsylvania, as well as in Michigan and Wisconsin and Arizona. Those are states I'm optimistic about this evening.
Senator Coons, you still think we're going to hear from Vice President Biden tonight?
I'm hopeful, but not certain. You know, I think we need to remember that elections aren't called on election night. They may get projections from the news, but in the end, elections in the United States are decided by states and counties, and it's often days after election night when all the votes are counted.
Great, there are millions of votes left. Tomorrow will be our comeback. If not, I will prepare my Bernie with a form.
Before we ultimately reach a decision about this election.
Important reminder, no question about that. Senator Coons, thanks very much for your time tonight. I want to go back to Cecilia Vega at the White House. What more are you picking up now, Cecilia, about whether or not President Trump will speak?
Actually, we just asked an aide when the president will speak, and we were told that they didn't know. We are sort of relying on what Kellyanne Conway told you at the beginning of the evening, that he will, in fact, address the nation at some point. I got to say, I'd seen some photos from some photographer friends of mine here, colleagues in the White House who were in the room where the president's supporters are gathering in the East Room of the White House, and it looks very much like it is a room where he will speak. There is a podium. There are teleprompters up, so I would not be surprised if we hear from him at some night. Check, George, you know, they've got, again, these 2 war rooms here on the grounds of the White House where aides and campaign staffers are feverishly monitoring these returns coming in. We've been told that the president has been going between the residence and these rooms and touching base regularly with aides, so they're keeping him up to speed on that front. But the mood check here is they're feeling extremely confident by what they're seeing. Those North Carolina numbers, they like very much, and that's giving them some more confidence in states like Arizona and Nevada as we watch those numbers rolling over the course of the evening.
Cecilia Vega, thanks very much. ABC News can now project the Democrats are going to retain the House of Representatives. Not a surprise here, Democrats winning.
Ça fait longtemps, tout le monde a collé, environ 2 heures.
We can now say the Democrats will keep that margin. Mary Bruce, that means likely that Nancy Pelosi, who I think had not spoken to President Trump in over a year, will return as Speaker.
That certainly does seem to be the case, George. We know that they have had this incredibly fraught relationship. There is still that fraught relationship continuing. I think specifically about the fight over COVID relief, which continues to be ongoing, even given the state of this pandemic. The two of them still, the two sides have not been able to come together and pass a COVID relief bill in these last recent weeks. It seems that certainly is not going to happen anytime soon. And Nancy Pelosi will continue. If Donald Trump continues to be president, Nancy Pelosi will continue to be his foe on Capitol Hill.
Okay, Mary, one more look at the board here. 95 electoral votes for Donald Trump right now, 93 for Joe Biden. That is because we have just added the state of Kansas for President Trump as well. And Terry, as we look at that 95 to 93 at 10:44 on the East Coast, 270 winners. As I said, it looks like we're doing a little bit of a replay right now of 2016 with all those big battleground states still out there. America about as divided as ever.
Oh, le gars, il parle plus.
Terry Moran?
Yes, I'm sorry, George, I was looking at something else. But it does look that way, and it looks like it comes as a surprise to Democrats who thought they had the wind in their sails. But it turns out, I think one of the reasons the polls have been so battered is that Donald Trump represents a realignment. The pollsters don't understand a post-Donald Trump America, it seems to me. He wasn't a Republican, he was a nationalist. And that is something that this country hasn't seen. Other countries have. We've seen nationalists seize the loyalty of people who are looking for a different economy, a different culture than the Western cultures are trending, and they keep returning populist nationalists to power. Donald Trump is that person. I think it does come as a surprise, certainly to pollsters and to many Democrats as well. There's a lot of things, however this race comes out, for Democrats to do when it comes to the white working class and the working class among many of the minorities as well.
Thank you, Terry. Another state has just gone to Joe Biden, Illinois, and it's 20 electoral votes, solid Democratic state, won by Hillary Clinton in 2016 by 17
C'est tout ça le plan. C'est tout ça le plan. Trump show à soir. Trump va dire qu'il gagne à soir. Mais ce qui a été fou, c'est que genre la Pennsylvanie a été capable d'avoir un ruling que eux ils ont. Ils ont encore 3 jours pour pouvoir compter.
But that's an important distinction. You say to 2016, not necessarily to the wealth of polls we saw coming into this election.
No, that's what I was going to get to next. I appreciate the lead-in right there. We should really take this on the road. I think it's really good. But what's happened is there's basically when the dust gets settled, you'll see Joe Biden is overperforming in certain areas and underperforming from a vote total. But when you look at the polling, what some of the expectations and people have right now, just on election night, is they saw things happening in North Carolina, Georgia, etc. Still could happen. But what's happening is really it's going to come down to 4 states: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Arizona,
and perhaps Arizona.
and maybe Georgia.
I did some quick back-of-the-envelope math, and it looks to me like Trump would have to get between 65 and 70% of what's outstanding to win Arizona. It's not impossible, but that's a really tall hurdle. And we've seen repeatedly in this campaign where the president is underperforming with seniors.
J'ai manqué valider le vote, ils sont pas comptés. Tantôt j'ai entendu ils ont compté 75 cas de vote et ils en avaient plus de 2 millions par la poste. Pour quel État ça? La Pennsylvanie ou autre? Parce que la Pennsylvanie, je pense que ça va finir par virer démocrate, mais c'est parce que l'affaire c'est que si tu perds le Michigan puis le Wisconsin, c'est dead.
Ohio and holding Pennsylvania. If he loses Arizona.
I mean, John, I'm going to go to you on this because this is where the Nebraska 2nd Congressional District comes into play. If Joe Biden wins Arizona, wins Michigan, and wins Wisconsin, but loses Pennsylvania,
you get to 269, and that's a tie. And the way the tie is broken is it's broken in the House of Representatives, but it's not the majority of the House of Representatives, which the Democrats control. Every state's congressional district gets a single vote. And the Republicans control more congressional districts, more state delegations than by one. They have 26.
Wow. If Joe Biden wins that 2nd Congressional District in Nebraska, 270
and by the way, we call it, it's got a nickname. It's called Obama, because Obama won it when they started splitting the Delaware. So, it is a district that I would say Biden is favored to win.
You do not look at this person and ever think of the word patience, but I'm actually going to advocate it. It's going to be a long week. It's going to take a while. It's going to come down to 4
Mais tu sais, si tu gagnes la Pennsylvanie, tu perds Wisconsin, Michigan, ça n'a rien servi de gagner la Pennsylvanie. Il fallait que tu gagnes la Pennsylvanie parce que tu gagnais le Michigan puis Wisconsin.
Progressives and Democrats came together to support Carr Eastman. So if it comes down to that, I think we might win it.
Okay, we got to take a quick break. We'll be back.
Ah yo man, une chance que t'es là, Roach, man. J'étais en train d'abandonner. Aïe aïe aïe.
ABC News, straightforward.
La Caroline du Nord, man, c'est encore tout fucké. Hein.
I've been quested to bring this one back to its kind. If I can locate other Mandalorians, they can guide me.
Right, Star Wars. Qu'est-ce que je veux checker? Qu'est-ce qui est rendu avec la Caroline du Nord? Oh my god, il y a 60 000 de différence. Ça commence à s'agrandir, man. Ça commence à s'agrandir. Je pense pas que la Caroline du Nord va passer bleu. La Caroline du Nord va pas passer bleu. La Georgie non plus, là. Même si c'est juste un 400 000 de différence, pareil, là, mais 60% in. Ah, ben oui, mais c'est parce qu'il reste. Il reste tout Atlanta. Non, 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 c'est pas vrai. Je dis de la merde. À quel point je dis de la merde? J'en dis beaucoup ou pas beaucoup? J'en dis. Ok, non. Ouais, ça, tout Atlanta est rendu bleu. 16% in. 33. 95, ça c'est dead. 70, ça c'est dead. 70, 33. Ah, il y a du jeu, mais pas tant. C'est quoi le gap? 400 000 en Georgie? Non, non, non. La Georgie ne gagne pas. Non, 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 ça se passe pas en Georgie. Ça se passera pas. Ah. J'ai chaud aux oreilles, man. Ah. Evie. Je sais pas Evie. Qu'est-ce qui se passe d'autre? Live. Biden. Ouais. Ouais. Au Wisconsin et Michigan, là, ça n'a pas rapport, là. Texas, ce qui se passe au Texas? Encore un retard de 400 000-ish, là. Morning. Qu'est-ce qui se passe à Fox? C'est con, on n'a pas rien de Fox News, man. Fox News Live. Est-ce qu'ils l'ont? Watch now. Est-ce qu'ils permettent?
Take it once a week.
Oh. Ozempic is not for people with type 1 diabetes or diabetic ketoacidosis.
And Republicans won. There has not been a switch yet in any of the key battlegrounds. We're still looking at a lot of states. We can project now that Donald Trump, as you see up there, has won the state.
Ouais, il y a fuck all sur YouTube.
Fait
que j'irai pas, là.
Electoral votes, solid Republican state. No surprise there again. And we can report in the Senate, Lindsey Graham will hold on to his seat in South Carolina. Faced a fierce, surprising challenge from Jamie Harrison, who raised tens of millions of dollars in the final weeks of this campaign. It wasn't enough to put him over the top. Janae Norman in South Carolina.
Yeah, George, Jamie Harrison spoke not long ago conceding the race to Lindsey Graham, a hard-fought race that Lindsey Graham hadn't originally anticipated. As you just mentioned, Harrison raised record-setting amounts of money, and he pushed this idea about the New South, hoping a surge of black voters and growing diversity in this historically red state could help propel him to victory.
Are we there yet? Au crime qu'on est voir les tiers.
That conservatives would choose Lindsey Graham. That's one thing the state's GOP chair talked with me about earlier today. He said demographics are not ideology, demographics are not philosophy. He told me it is conservative ideals that have given Republicans a majority here in South Carolina, and that has helped Lindsey Graham in recent weeks, even though he has changed his stance on Supreme Court nominations in an election year by supporting the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court. He has been able to tout those conservative values, and that has helped him a lot. He struggled more this time around with women and independent voters, with women seeming evenly split between between Harrison and Graham, and independent voters seeming to lean toward Harrison. But in the end, Graham pulled this one out. He will hold on to his seat, and that will certainly help Republicans as they remain optimistic in maintaining a majority in the Senate.
George Norman, thanks very much. John Carr, I want to go to you. One of the reasons Jamie Harrison was able to raise so much money is that Lindsey Graham become such a target of progressives and liberals, gone from being the best friend of John McCain to basically Donald Trump's biggest supporter in the Senate.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, there was when Obama first got elected, I think he was Rahm Emanuel's best friend. I mean, he was the Republican you like to work with. He was, but he hitched himself. He hitched himself to Donald Trump thoroughly and totally. After calling Trump a racist, he attacked Trump in the most vicious terms during that Republican primary and turned right around. And you know, Jamie Harrison was able to raise presidential level money in a Senate race, but not enough to win in South Carolina.
No, and Mary Bruce, Lindsey Graham was such a key player in the confirmation of both Brett Kavanaugh and Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court.
He is the chairman of the powerful Judiciary Committee. Lindsey Graham just got a very big win in the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett, but it was yet another example of the really just astounding 180 that Lindsey Graham has done in recent years. Of course, he came out in the end of Obama's term saying he would absolutely never consider a Supreme Court nominee this close to a presidential election. He went back on that promise, of course, leading the charge on the Hill to get Amy Coney Barrett confirmed. Lindsey Graham has really gone from being one of the president's opponents, his foes, to being his absolute top ally on the Hill. I can tell you,
400 000 là, de différence. Là. Trump en avance de 400 000 à 56 à 41%. C'est huge, 40% in, mais c'est beaucoup. Hein.
If he wants the president to know what's happening on the Hill, he often comes and finds us to telegraph through the media. It has been just a remarkable run for Lindsey Graham, and I think it was one of the reasons, of course, why you saw Jamie Harrison raising so much money. Lindsey Graham was pummeled in this race by ads for his flip-flopping on his positions. And when it comes to the president, Jamie Harrison raising that astounding $57 million. That is presidential-level money, but ultimately not enough. Lindsey Graham, it appears, will continue to be the president's top ally, closest friend on Capitol Hill.
Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Chris Christie, now the Senate battle is going to come down to North Carolina, Iowa, and Maine.
Yeah, and the Republicans have to win 2 of the 3 there.
C'est dead, Joshi.
And I think they're in good shape to do it. I continue to hear from North Carolina Republican leadership. They're getting more and more confident as the night goes on that Tom Tillis is going to win a narrow race there and that the president will win the electoral votes. And in Iowa, spoke to a couple of Republican leaders there who think that Joni Ernst is going to be in good shape tonight.
We're going to keep an eye on it. We're going to be back in just a minute. Some of our stations are going to go to the late local news right now, but our election coverage continues in just a moment.
Yeah.
If you have a personal or family history of medullary thyroid cancer.
To all the pollsters out there, you have no idea what you're doing. And to all the liberals in California and New York, you wasted a lot of money. This is the worst return on investment in the history of American politics. I got a call from Mr. Harrison. Jamie, thank you. He was very gracious. He created an incredible campaign for the first time he's ever run for office. He raised more money than anybody in the history of the United States Senate. I think had a lot to do with that, but Jamie, I appreciate the phone call. I will do my best to unite us where I can. You're a good father. You're a good husband.
All right, man.
You're a good
Bonne
man.
soirée à toi aussi. Thanks d'être venu aussi longtemps, man. C'est vraiment cool. Je pense que moi aussi, je vais tirer ma révérence, faire un petit dodo. Là. À 11h, c'était mon target à peu près. Ou du moins pour streamer, là, le reste, je vais peut-être le laisser rouler puis rester up quand même. Là, mais... Pour le stream, je pense que ça va être ça, man. Fait que... Oh ouais. Bonne idée. Oh. On va faire à peu près comme toi. Ciao, bye. On va ça. Bon ben, sur ça tout le monde, je vous dis bonne nuit, puis bonne fin de comptabilisation de vote pour la prochaine semaine. Ciao!